What is up, team? And welcome back to the Technical Fowl Podcast. You're joined by the three of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my left is Sanders Oakley, and to my right is JP Pusilowski. Now, I normally start with Sanders and ask him how his weekend was.
As you should.
No, to the right, JP had a pretty big weekend. So how was your weekend, JP?
It was good.
Yeah?
Just watched some football.
Sure.
Got ready for tonight's show, and
Yeah.
that's about it. Jokes aside, I got engaged on Saturday, which was really, really cool. Had a party after, which was really, really cool. And excited for the next chapter.
Sure.
A lot of people ask this, like, that a weight off your shoulders or whatnot, and to be honest, just felt like another day in the office. That's what I told some people. I felt no nerves going into it. I'm happier after. I will say that at least.
Yeah.
To say something
Good
positive
Good sign.
about
I would hope you'd be happy after.
the experience, but
It's a lot better than a weight being put onto your shoulders now that you're engaged.
absolutely.
There's kind of a sense to when you get engaged where it's a great moment and it's a happy occasion, but there is like in the moment a little bit of like, oh, that's it,
Yeah.
and now we like move on to kind of the bigger steps and the more important thing of getting married. But like the moment is just so short in of itself where it's like, cool, what do we do now?
Yeah, it wasn't as theatrical
Yeah.
as theatrical proposals are, to say the least. But it was very sweet, and the pictures look great. That was my biggest thing. Was I was concerned that I would dislike the photos, but I don't.
That's huge.
Yeah, we asked you the minute you walked in, we were like, so how did you feel about because apparently the way you take the knee is like a big deal. Straight back, like 90-degree knees. You don't want bent over.
See, that's how I got lucky is Lucy didn't want any photos there.
Wow.
So she just wanted it to be the two of us.
Mm.
So there was no having to like play it for the camera, or I could have had the worst form ever, and the world will never know.
Yeah.
But that is fair. I'm glad you liked the pictures. Way to clutch up in the moment and stay dialed.
Appreciate it.
It's got to be up there for the biggest weekend we've had on the show, as in like when Jack asked like how someone's weekend, this has to be the biggest, like, because I know you got married, but then you technically missed the following shows, so
Correct.
we didn't get to ask you how your weekend
No,
was.
this is the biggest. This is the biggest weekend recap.
Yeah.
We've
we've had.
for sure.
Yeah.
Until this weekend's recap.
Yeah.
Hey, if we win the Egg Bowl, I think I would be willing to give it that title of biggest weekend recap.
If we win the Egg Bowl, I'm going to heavily consider driving to Auburn, Alabama.
Just like out of pure joy.
Out of pure joy.
Yeah.
And then, wanting to see that game in person.
I'd argue, Andrew McBride asks, if the shot goes in, who cares about the form? I'm not going to lie. Like, I think I'd rather shoot a couple percent points worse and have my shot look better.
Yeah.
I don't know. If for a basketball context on that, as someone who's coached people to learn how to shoot, and someone who is very particular in how I shoot the basketball and all of that, I get that to a degree. But I've always felt that it matters how you shoot, because eventually I think it's going to catch up to you. The amount of RPMs of backspin you're able to get on the ball will eventually catch up to you. If you're putting side spin on the ball, that's eventually going to catch up to you. If your base is too wide, eventually that's going to catch up to you. A problem that a lot of shooters have, especially young, is one, they'll shoot from their hips. And when you get older, if you start shooting from your hips, it takes longer to get that shot off. Closeout can get there in time. They can block you. The other one is they'll shoot with their strong side. So for me, I'm right-handed. They will turn their feet, and they'll shoot like this.
Yeah.
Michael K. Gilchrist used to shoot like this.
I watched a guy shoot free throws like that.
They'll shoot like this. The problem is when you're driving to the right, how do you get your feet back all the way over there to go and to shoot?
Yeah.
It takes a ton of footwork for that. So I think in that context, I disagree. But given the context,
In the context of engagement, you could get down in a squat.
I think it makes sense.
And if she says yes,
If she says
you've
yes,
won.
it doesn't matter. But I feel like, that gets into the form impacts the likelihood of you making that shot. Good form higher shooting percentage. If you go down a squat, that's bad form. I think it's a lower shooting
I
percentage.
kind of disagree because I think a lot of it, because a photographer is essentially required, public perception
But like
is a huge part in it.
for me,
For you, it would not.
for
matter.
y'all, all y'all know, I didn't even go down on a knee.
Oh wait, I thought you said you didn't. You said for all we know you
Yeah,
didn't.
for all we know is I didn't go down on one knee.
I guess that's
I
possible.
could have done a squat.
I know you.
You don't?
I know you didn't
Were
just
you
stay
there?
straight up because you're already like 2 feet taller than her. Imagine looking down on your and being like, "Do you want to like that?" That's funny.
You have no idea.
True. We
Well,
don't.
How was your weekend, Sanders?
My weekend was great. At the, I was about to say the engagement party. At the engagement party, I was told that I remind someone of Pat McAfee when it comes to the show.
That was crazy. That is a moment that happened.
It was kind of electric. 3 years ago, I would have been I wasn't a huge Pat McAfee fan 3 years ago, and he's actually grown on me to where I really like him a lot now. At first, I thought he was like unprofessional and just kind of rough and just like, I was just not a huge fan. But since then, I've come to realize that he is a lot of the things that I love about college football, and that's just like energetic and passionate, and it comes across a lot of times as goofy or even overly goofy, but I still like him. So I took that as a compliment. They said that my energy, that I bring a lot of energy, which
Yeah.
I do in everything, including outside of the show, which gets into the other part of my weekend, which I have a very addictive personality. When it's TV shows or projects, whatever, if I find something that I am really passionate about, I lock in and do not stop thinking about that till it's done. Thursday night, we record our show. I edit videos, and I finish up about 11 or midnight, and then I get an idea for the website for something that I want to work on, something I want to add, and I work on that till 3 in the morning. And then at 3 in the morning, I go to bed, wake up at 9, do not eat, do not shower, sit right back down at the desk, and I worked until 11 o'clock that night. And I got the project finished up, and it will come later because it's not done yet, but like I got like the biggest parts of it done.
Sure.
But I put in like 20 hours in a 24-hour day on that project, and it's awesome. It looks really good right now. I've got some kinks to work out. JP's gonna help me out with that, but it's gonna be a really cool addition. It'll, I think, be helpful for people who want to know, like, look at college football rosters and depth charts and stuff like that. I think it'll be a really neat way to view all that, but that will be coming later after I already just added the basketball portion of the People's Bowl, which is cool. So
It was pretty fly.
yeah, locked in over the weekend, and then I almost went to 2 engagements yesterday. I'm grateful now that I did not. JP got engaged. The party was at 2:30. One of my best friends was getting engaged in Huntsville and his party was at 6. And I was trying to do the math, like, can I do both? Can I do both? And it got to the time when I'd have to leave JP's, and I was like, I do not want to spend 7 hours in the car tonight. So I called him, and then he was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I totally get it. So I felt better after that. But it was a fun weekend. Sure. 2 people engaged. I got to see one of them in person. The other one I'll see in the coming weeks. One of us will make a drive. But a great weekend. Jack, how was your weekend?
It was pretty solid. It was good. It was good.
Thanksgiving festivities kicked off?
Yeah, I went Friday to take senior photos with my wife's younger sister. And then went to both sides of in-laws, grandparents over the course of the weekend. Friday and Saturday, part of Saturday, just to like see them, and then tonight was, and like this afternoon was Thanksgiving on my wife's mom's side. So we were all there, had some ham, some squash dressing, which was a first for me. It was interesting.
Interesting. And so now Christmas music
Casserole.
can begin?
No, it cannot begin.
Dressing as in the Thanksgiving dish and not like
Yes.
ranch dressing.
Correct. As in the Thanksgiving dish.
Just clarifying.
Yeah, very fair because squash, it could throw someone off. It was tasty. Caramel cake after.
Yeah.
Can't complain. It was great food. And just good to hang out and see people. And then it's just weird divvying up now because like I'm married and this is the first like holiday cycle for it.
Yeah.
So then we'll go to Thanksgiving with my family, and then we'll do Christmas with her family, and then we'll kind of do Christmas with my family after Christmas, but everything's like modified and like and at these
Everything,
all weird,
it's gotta
these
be
weird
chaotic.
time constraints. But it was fun. I'm happy to be here. Feel very frazzled. I've just kind of been rushing around all day, and now I'm here. But we crank out a show regardless, and I'm ready to get rolling if we want to get into weekly takeaways.
Yeah, we can. We are skipping our ballots this week. just because it's 9 o'clock and we would like to be done before midnight.
I also didn't do mine. So that
Well, I was not
Call
going
a
to
spade a
out.
spade.
Not going to out.
I'll
okay,
out
we
myself.
All right, cool. We can out Jack. Bozo did not do his ballot. It's fine. I didn't do mine. a couple
I'll
weeks ago.
cope. The reality is I've been busy and just didn't get around to it, which is on me.
Yeah,
But
we can start with our
not
weekly
tons
takeaways.
of stuff happened. Weekly takeaways. Anyone want to go first in terms of your biggest weekly takeaway aside from games we talked about?
I'm concerned about OU.
Just their offense?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
100%. They're outgained again, and yet won a game at home. This is I can get into takeaway on Missouri next, but their offense, it's just been anemic since the John Mateer injury, and it may not catch them. In fact, if they are the home team, depending on matchup, I'm pretty much going to pick them in that first round of the playoffs, regardless of who they play. But if their offense isn't cooking, then I don't think you can pick this team to win the national championship by any means. They're going to need to. Once again, they flip the turnover battle. They win it 3-0,
Which was a
or
must.
2-0 against Missouri, I should say. Again, it felt like it was a must. The game was flying Missouri's way for pretty much the first 20 minutes or so, and then it flipped on its head. But yeah, I think the stat was 84%. Something like that. Over 50% of their yards offensively were on the Isaiah Satanga slant route touchdown. They went for about 70-ish yards.
Yeah.
This offense. Now, Missouri defense is good, but State didn't have zero troubles against
You said 50% of
over 50%.
They had 276 total yards, so
Okay,
maybe
well
at
then,
the time,
At the time,
maybe it was an at the time kind of stat. But it's still that's
Over a quarter.
25%. It's
Yeah,
still
it's
a
over a
quarter of
quarter.
your total yards came on one play.
So I'm concerned for my Oklahoma Sooners.
Sure.
Not concerned next week for when Mr. President and the LSU Tigers come into town, because they barely were able to handle Western Kentucky.
That was crazy.
And I watched almost every snap of that game.
That was very funny.
Because I was at Two Bros watching. They had it on the big screen.
Free my boy BK. You see that part?
I saw
That
that
was
as well.
absurd.
From Lincoln, or not Lincoln, but Brian
Kinzel?
Kelly's son, Kinzel Kelly. That was crazy. Another fake accent from another Kelly there. Free my boy. I'll never say that for my father, regardless of what crime he commits.
Sure.
And ends up in jail. That's diabolical. Brian Kelly's alive, by the way.
And not in prison.
I will say I don't like. It seems like Brian wasn't allowed to come.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he wanted to, but if he did, I think it's BS if he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's a father and son. It's like mother and daughter, and father and daughter, and mother and son.
Yeah.
So
It's just
all
any
parental
parent,
relationships.
Any
kid
parental
relationship.
Yeah, that should supersede.
I agree completely.
But the larger part of that was, OU and their offense, once we get to the playoff, I'm certainly concerned about.
They just have nowhere to turn for easy yards, I feel like. Like, if they need a play to be made, there's nothing they can really rely on to come in the clutch. There's no Jeremiah Love in the offense. There's no Marcel Reed scramble game. There's no Jerry Bernard 5-yard dig route, something like that. And then the Mateer piece of just I don't know if it's still the injury or what, and it just he's not being consistent enough as a thrower and accurate enough as a thrower. He hits the big slant play to Satania, and so you can see the highs, because he put that right on the money. But I think he even texted in the chat I really hate John Mateer, and I don't actually hate him. That was me being strong, but he just wants to sidearm sling everything at this point. Everything is coming out here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's part of the issue or what. I'm not a quarterback coach, but it just seems so unnecessary, and it just nothing is fluid back there.
You want to talk about a way you can pick up easy yards? A lot of the time, it can be you just have a really, really talented X, but for a lot of relationships, quarterback and tight end. Jaron Kanik, in the first 4 games before with the Mateer injury, those 4 games had 5 catches or 4 catches in every game, and then had 60 or more yards in every game.
Yeah.
So they were able to find him. Since then, he hasn't had a game with 4 catches. His most is 3, and the most yards he's had in a game is 30. I don't know why they've gone away from him, because he's still playing all the snaps. So I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
I have him on my fantasy team. Well, not anymore. He's into the wilderness.
Graduated.
I picked up a freshman while I still could, who actually cooked this weekend for USC, Tanner Kynes. But get the tight end involved a little bit more. I don't know if they noticed that kind of trend. That's something I would bring up.
Yeah.
As a trend for them to bring up, that they're not going to change who they are running the football when you have 3 true freshmen starting on the offensive line, and Mateer, at least at this point, isn't going to consistently put up the rushing numbers he put up at the beginning of the season. But that seems like an easy fix. Just draw up little ones to the tight end, send your receivers and Deion Burks and Satanga deep, and roll the tight end under them.
Yeah.
Get it 5 or 7 yards.
Something in that range.
5 to 7 yards, yeah.
And just move the sticks, get into more manageable third downs. They're relying so much on converting deep third downs.
Yeah.
They relied on a ton of those in the Bama game, and then even more so in this Missouri game as well. But it's concerning, because given the way that they looked at the beginning of the year, while they only scored 24 points in the Michigan game and then 24 points in the Auburn game, Mateer threw for 270 in both of those games.
The offense just looked more confident, even aside from stats. You just watch them play, and there's just a different air about the unit than there is now. Do you want to get to the Missouri side of your takeaway?
Yeah, Elijah Drinkwitz is a B word, and
completely agree.
Actually, a boy would work. That works fine.
Yeah.
A baby boy, that's also one that would apply to that scenario. Nothing is on the line. Like, literally nothing is on the line. There is only stuff to gain, and yet he gets down the field up 3-0. OU's 3 drives had been a 3-and-out, 7 plays and a punt. You've gotten all the way down the field. You saw how the field goal operation was on the first field goal.
Terrible.
He
actually kicked the worst best ball of all time.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if he doesn't kick it that far left, that thing's getting blocked.
It's one of those things in golf that even your high handicap buddy who's terrible, he can somehow hit 5 inches behind the ball, and it works out for him.
You can run into one. Yeah.
And he'll celebrate like that was what he meant to do. And
Yeah.
I know, because I know about how to strike a golf ball, that's not going to yield
it's not
consistent
repeatable
results. Yeah. But Elijah Drinkwitz, Eli, whoever you want to call him, gets all the way down there and then doesn't go for it on 4th and 3 from the OU 17, ends up kicking the field goal, and it ends up getting blocked. And what is it? Yeah, 3 plays later, Satanga slant. OU's up 7-3.
Felt like game, to be honest.
It literally felt like game almost immediately. Before that play, OU had 17 total yards offensively. All of a sudden, it's 90 yards, and it's 7-3 OU. They score on their next drive as well, and it's 14-3, and just like that, it's over. The problem that he's had at Missouri is he doesn't win against good opponents. This is another top 8 opponent. He can't beat them. His best ranked win is 13 against Tennessee. His 4 ranked wins ever. Why are you not being aggressive? There's literally no reason not to, especially at that point in the game. And he paid for it. And I saw that outburst from a few Missouri fans and then from a few general fans on Twitter. But it's astounding that he is like a leading candidate. It sounds like, at least at this point, that wherever Lane goes, if Lane goes to LSU, it sounds like Elia is going to Florida.
Yeah.
But I think if Lane were to go to Florida, then maybe it's Kenny Dillingham that's going to LSU.
Sure.
But it sounds like he's the plan B for Florida.
Which, I mean, he's going to take it, and he should.
As he should. Why wouldn't you?
The the shine is going to wear off him very fast.
Yep.
If there's another season at Missouri where he didn't really win anything.
Yeah. Kind of like Buzz getting out of A&M when he did.
Correct. And he's done it over and over again. You get out before it sours.
Yeah. I also think it'd be so funny if Drinkwitz ended up going to Penn State. Because he is just Walmart brand James Franklin with the way he loses these big games. Because like we talked about, you would cry. I think it'd be so funny.
Because I like Penn State.
I do too, but it would. But
I would laugh. I would laugh 100%.
I liked James Franklin Penn State. I don't know that I like the Penn State that's led by the people who fired James Franklin.
Do you think? I don't know the pulse on Penn State and their message board, but would it be possible that they would have the same reaction that you guys had with Mark Stoops to
probably
Eli Drinkwitz?
I would say so.
I don't know if they could pull off the same feat that you guys did, but
yeah,
because I already know everyone who commentates on the sport, half of them, that'll be their first tweet is like comparing James Franklin and Eli Drinkwitz's record
as they
top
should.
25 teams.
As they should.
Andrew, our Florida fan in the chat, would not be happy with the Drinkwitz at Florida Fit, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Andrew, are you at all like, where's your concern level at this point in the searching or like the coaching search for Florida that y'all are going to land like a dud, I guess? Or what's your ideal scenario outside of Lane, I will say, because obviously Lane's kind of the prize. But if you don't get Lane, what's your pivot that you think is realistic?
I think it's got to be one of the G5 guys, Sumrall at South Florida. Is that right?
Sumrall from Tulane.
Tulane,
yeah.
Thank you.
Mark Golish is South Florida.
Alec.
Yes.
Mark,
Alec Golish.
Golish.
Yeah.
Not Mark.
8 of 10 concern. I think that's fair. There's no way the longer a coaching search goes on, it's just the concern is going to raise. And that brings me to another one of my big takeaways, which is from today. It came out that Mike Norvell is going to be Florida State's head coach next season, which I think is crazy. I guess I'm not surprised at this point. We talked earlier on the show, like, oh, they're going to fire him 100%. And then it came out that his job was safe at least for the rest of the season. And so then I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like maybe they're going to keep him. And now they are. Y'all's thoughts on that? Do y'all think it's an admission of, oh, this is a really stacked coaching search and we don't like where our job falls in the totem pole, and so we want to get rid of him and we're just going to have to wait a year? Or do you think they actually trust the guy and are backing him and are going to up their resources and stuff like that?
I think that's a large portion to it because you look at the jobs that are available right now. Are they? Well, for one, they are for sure not top 3. It's going to be Penn State, LSU, Florida. Excuse me. Are they top 4? Are they a better job than Auburn? I don't know. There's some debate there. Are they even top 5? Are they a better job than Arkansas?
Yeah.
With this given landscape in the SEC and everything, I don't know.
They probably are. That's the thing. But
are you sure?
The landscape because you don't have to compete against Alabama, LSU,
are they
Tennessee,
sure?
Texas
And
A&M,
that is the large
Texas,
part to it.
Oklahoma.
But they want to compete on the national
Ole
level,
Miss.
so in some way it still matters.
But for a candidate standpoint, I don't know that they care about that.
I'm not sure to what level because I don't have any sources and I don't have any way to talk to someone at Florida State.
Yeah.
But I think
Florida State fan,
I think it's very clear from stuff that has been said, and also just reading in between the lines, that the budget at Florida State is not what it needs to be competitive at a really high level.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason they've struggled in high school recruiting and have now really just had to go all in into we're going to be a mercenary school and just be all transfers and take swings that way, and it's not worked out for them.
Yeah,
So-
except when you have a low budget and you're a mercenary school, it means you get Castellanos instead of Carson Beck
Sure.
or Fernando Mendoza, Jackson Arnold, who turns out to be bad. But you don't get the cream of the crop mercenaries.
And I want to be clear, by lower budget, I don't mean they're not working with any money. They do still have some money. I think a lot of it
I don't know.
isn't
I've
even-
heard they're a poverty program like Ohio State is.
Yeah, sure.
Have you seen? I talked about that
I have
last
not
week.
seen that.
It was the dude who was like the Braylon Womack. He's just chasing a bag. That's why he's not going to Ohio State. And I was like, yes, the poverty program that is Ohio State because
it has no money.
yeah, they probably didn't offer him any money because they're broke.
I think it's not just budget. I think their facilities and stuff isn't up to snuff either. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But that surprised me for one.
I was going to say to answer to you, Sanders, the competing in the SEC thing, I think holds zero impact because coaches are freaks. They want to compete at the highest level.
Yeah.
They don't care who they play, when they play. where they play. They want to play the best every single week so that they can be the best. That's how coaches are driven. So I think because of that, there's potentially an argument that Florida State isn't even in that top 5. So now you're getting the 6th best head coach available, and probably the most ideal scenario, James Franklin is already gone. That would have been really ideal because you can just pay your buyout money and then pay him marginal money because he's already getting paid for a buyout.
Do y'all think they didn't want him, or do you think they wanted him and he said no and chose Virginia Tech over them?
I don't know.
Sure. I mean, there's no way to know.
Yeah, this is all assumption
Speculative.
and guessing.
Very speculative. I think because they hadn't made up their mind that Franklin went somewhere else and he ends up going to Virginia Tech. I don't think he felt like he wanted to be indecisive. I think he really wanted to be in the building and ready to go before this coming Sunday or Monday, National Signing Day.
Yeah. I mean, he literally gets to be the first head coach hired. He gets a head start now over every other program.
Yeah.
He's already been introduced to the fans, the boosters, the higher-ups there. He's bringing a big environment and a big trust. Of course, the stadium was going to sell out anyway, but that stadium was rocking and ready to go. And if the team had been anything, maybe they're more competitive with Miami this weekend. But he's already building that in-house, and now NIL money can fill in, and now you're ready to go recruit the state of Virginia and go potentially get some kind of signing class. You're in a better spot next year to be competitive in an ACC conference that no one wants to step up in.
Yeah.
I think that was probably his largest desire in the coaching search was
Fair.
just to get somewhere. Obviously, pick somewhere nice, but I get in as fast as you can. And I think it's going to benefit him a lot compared to these other coaches that are going to have to still continue to go through these coaching searches.
Did y'all see Josh Pate's tweet about he knows where Lane Kiffin is going? And wow.
I did see it. I'm curious if I don't know. I don't know what to think about that, I guess.
He was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Was he?
That makes sense.
Yes.
Because he phrased it like any other, which is why I didn't like it. So I'm glad. I guess that makes sense. He phrased it like anyone else does that has 2,000 followers and like thinks they're in the know with like the wow on the end, where it's like it's a nothing burger basically.
I watched his portion of the show where he's talking about Kiffin. That
I
came
also
out
watched
tonight.
that. Oh, I didn't watch tonight. I watched
That came out tonight.
Okay.
He said it was sarcastic.
Okay.
Trying to imitate the people on the message boards
Yeah.
where people have said it's a done deal. He's
Yeah.
going to LSU. It's a done deal. He's going to Florida. It's a done deal. He's staying.
He's going to Cal now. Breaking news.
I haven't heard that. But
I'll go
Cal
post
did
it.
fire their head coach.
and then he made a big deal about people that are going to take credit from this because it's a 33% chance. It's not like
Yeah.
we're picking out of 17 or something.
Kind of like you with Mississippi State's going to beat Tennessee. Mississippi State's going to beat Georgia. Mississippi State's going to beat Florida.
No, I just felt like that way.
But yours was a 50-50 chance.
I don't think that's the same way. But I guess there's some part to that. He also said he's talked to Lane every day for the past week, and he has no clue where he's going. And he knows that Lane pretty much hasn't decided at this point.
Yeah.
But if he had to lean anywhere, it'd be LSU.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I need next time I need him to add a little sarcasm comment like I do occasionally on some of my tweets.
I think he replied to a few people and talked about how it was sarcastic, but I
Well,
don't think he used that word.
I didn't get that far. I should have dived further.
I think the other big takeaway from games that actually occurred is that not many teams played competitive teams this week. It was the SEC Cupcake Week, and then most of the weeks in the Big Ten are Cupcake Week anyway because the bottom of the Big Ten is just terrible. Nobody lost inside the top 14. Nobody lost inside the top 14, meaning
I wonder what the biggest
what movement is there going to be?
correct. I wonder what like the biggest spread underdog that lost was, or that one was.
It was the USC Oregon game, right? So it would have been 14 and a half, 10 and a half, 10 and a half.
No, but you like Oregon won. I'm
yeah,
saying like
but
the biggest
USC
dog,
lost. Oh, the big.
like the biggest dog that won outright.
Oh, I see. Sorry. I
So
thought
like
you were saying
I
what
was
was
Pitt won.
Pretty sure it would be Pitt.
I
Unless
wonder what TCU's spread was.
TCU's spread was 1.5 in favor of TCU.
Yeah, the Dan Lanning stuff, Andrew, was very stupid. Him talking about we're not playing basically a cupcake this week, which I don't necessarily love cupcake week in November. Like, I don't love the SEC plays FCS teams. I get why.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why would you not? But as, like, a fan of the game, I don't necessarily enjoy it. But, Dan, you played Montana State earlier in the season. Just because your FCS game was in August or September doesn't mean you didn't have an FCS game on your schedule.
Yeah.
So don't try and take the high and mighty road on us, which so many people have called him out for this. But, like, that's just so stupid. Don't schedule. If you want to take the, like, high and mighty road about it, then you better change your schedule and not play one of those teams yourself.
The teams they've beat this year have a below 500 combined win percentage.
Yeah.
That includes a really good FCS Montana State.
Yeah.
With a good record, but Penn State, of course, has fallen off a cliff, and their biggest game of the year they lost, Indiana at home.
Yeah.
I hate it. I think it makes no sense to even talk about it because, well, for one, when you do these interviews and everything is posted online, you have a history, and so people have found him talking as the offensive coordinator at Georgia.
Yeah.
And him saying, well, it's a large benefit to play in the SEC because you get to play the best of the best every week. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, but that's essentially what he's trying to say. And every SEC head coach has said something to that degree. So I think it's a bunch of BS for you to have a changed opinion as soon as you've gotten to Oregon just because the circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
I also think he's saying it like it's always just going to be this way. It always has been this way. The SEC's moving to 9 conference games next year, and you won't be able to say that anymore. It has no impact on you, and it's not his fault, but that's just the nature of the conference that Oregon joined. The Big Ten, the bottom of the Big Ten is just terrible.
Yep.
It is genuinely terrible. There are no
And
competitive games.
Will stay terrible because a lot of those schools, I don't want to say most, don't really care enough about football to change that. Like, State has been towards the bottom of the conference these past couple years.
Yeah.
But y'all really care, and y'all can only do so much to try and be competitive and make up the ground, but y'all are doing everything you can to make up that ground and to try and become competitive again. I don't personally believe a team like Northwestern or Rutgers is really trying to become crazy competitive.
Purdue only cares about basketball.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to invest in it. Now, Kentucky, you could say the same thing, but
Kentucky's the one exception, I would say.
Won at Auburn, took Texas to overtime. It's not like they've been nothing, and they've had competitive seasons year prior.
Correct, yeah.
They've had what should have been a first-round pick in Will Levis at quarterback. You can't say the same thing about these other schools down here at the bottom. They just refuse to be competitive in really any game. You look at the bottom of the Big Ten, they have no big wins over anyone up high, and you get into the SEC, and Mississippi State only has the one over Arkansas, but we've beaten 12th-ranked Arizona State this year.
Sure.
Auburn host Alabama, who is right now in the SEC championship. Do y'all know what the spread is?
Bama 6.5.
I was gonna say 5.5.
It's Bama minus 3.5 right now.
Wow.
That's electric.
That is amazing.
Alabama is a 3.5-point favorite at Auburn, who has fired their head coach, is 5-6, is starting more than likely their second quarterback next week, and they are a 3.5-point dog to Alabama, who's a top 10 team in the country. Of course, Florida has been competitive in games this year.
Beat a ranked Texas team.
Was really competitive with Georgia. So I think it's all a bunch of BS. And that is a take I think every SEC fan of an SEC team is going to have. And so, yes, there's some bias to that, I think.
But there's just
But I
truth.
think it's the truth.
I agree. And also, once again, I'm a fan of an SEC team, so call it bias. But I think there's truth there, and the rest of the country just doesn't want to admit it because, well, it doesn't help them or help their teams for that not to be true,
Yeah.
or for it to be true that the SEC is just better.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole conference, the top of the Big Ten, what the elite of the Big Ten have done the past couple years, has surpassed what the top of the SEC has.
I will say we
saying that.
need to win a championship this year, because 3 in a row for the Big Ten, it won't matter how deep our conference is. It's going to be a really hard argument to be like, yeah, we have the deepest conference. It doesn't matter. We got the best teams. Like, we got to win something this year, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're in terms of the argument. When you're talking about harder schedule, I still think the SEC has merit there.
Yeah.
When you're talking about best conference, at the end of the day, yes, winning the whole thing does matter, and being the conference that takes that home does matter. I will say, when you're playing an FCS team, and this is directed at what Bama's admin was doing yesterday, that is, you're not actually like making the statement you are when you're posting, hey, we had another long explosive run, hey, look what we did on the ground, basically trying to take shots at the committee saying they can't run the ball and that's why they're ranked low. You're not like, I don't think any single person saw that tweet and was like, oh man, Bama's figured out their run game. Like, I can't wait to see what they do at Auburn.
I don't know.
I just like, it's one thing to play an FCS team, and like, I get it. A&M, we played Samford, but like, to try and act like what you did in that game is really that impressive. That's when I'm like, all right, bro, like, we got to be realistic. When Arch Manning was flexing over the Sam Houston State guy, not even an FCS team, but just like a really bad FBS team, at some point it's like, can we be realistic about who we're playing here, I guess?
Yeah.
I honestly kind of hate that we, in Division I football, in a Power 4 at least, that they get to play FCS teams.
I mean,
I
that's
feel
fair.
like they should have to play FBS teams. I don't care if you go play Conference USA, but there are like I get it to some degree. It is like a location-wise thing. Like, we would play Jackson State or Alcorn State,
yeah.
because they are directionally pretty close to us. But Eastern Illinois is not close to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So why are you playing Eastern Illinois?
Yeah.
Why? I wish that they would at least play the group of 5 teams. Like, in your 3 non-con games, you can play. I think you still want to see one against, which I think they're requiring, if I'm not mistaken, one against a Power 4 team.
Yeah.
And then the other 2, I think, should be against group of 5 teams.
I don't hate it.
Or an independent.
I'm fine with an FCS team, but I agree you should keep it local, because I like helping out the smaller schools.
That's
and
what I was
giving
going to
them
say.
the money.
I like that we have it. It's good for economics.
Yeah.
Because they do pay those FCS schools to play them. And so it is just it's like
And maybe
it's helpful for the FCS.
But I agree.
schools,
Like,
and
we shouldn't play Samford. Alabama should have played Samford.
Yeah.
We should play Tarleton State or
Maybe
Abilene Christian.
keep it in place, but it is who you play for your spring game or who you play.
But no school's going to pay $1 million to
I'm-
have
like
someone come play for the
Well,
spring
the way
game.
the sport is going,
$1
people
million's
will pay
not that
$1
much.
million is not that much at all.
Fair
$1
enough.
million's a left tackle.
Yeah.
That matters a lot.
I'd rather have a left tackle than play
Yeah,
Alcorn State.
Exactly.
Yes.
I agree. I understand it's great for the economics wise and everything, but I do wish that they would play
Sure.
other group of 5 teams.
I mean,
other
once again,
FBS
as a fan, I would enjoy it more. I didn't even watch the A&M game yesterday because I was like, I mean, I followed along. I like looked at highlights as Twitter posted them, but what good does that do me? I was watching. Gosh, I'm trying to think what was on at 11 that I was watching.
Missouri, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was watching. Like, why would I? I'm not tuning in to watch us try and do a
Fake
little.
fan.
Mark-
I watched our FCS game.
Congrats! Did you were
It's
working?
I was
Senior day,
working.
man.
Yeah, I was working.
I looked at the senior day festivities. Said a heartfelt thank you to all the guys that stuck around in the Jimbo class. Said hi to Jimbo Fisher's son, that's now a kicker at Samford,
Yeah.
and then called it a day.
Is there a quarterback controversy at Alabama?
I don't think so.
Just
Just a
joking
thought,
out
yeah.
of it, but Ty Simpson was 11 for 16 through 2 picks, and then Keelan Russell was 7 for 9, and Austin Mack was 5 for 5.
Yeah, I think we're good there.
If y'all had to guess, I don't think y'all have seen it. I hope you haven't seen it. How many offensive yards do you think Eastern Illinois had against Bama?
82.
We'll do a Price is Right style too.
The correct answer
I'm-
for you
I'm-
here is 83.
But see, I'm gonna go what I really think it is, and I'm gonna go 68. And I almost made a grave error because I almost said the number one lower.
Okay.
But I'm going 68.
Yeah, cut that in half. 34.
Wow, 34. That is brutal.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Their quarterback was 4 for 8 for 20 yards.
I wonder if we have PFF
4
grades
for 8
that
is
game.
good because I was following along with the A&M game. I swear the Sanford QB's completion percentage was like 18% or something. It was the
7 for 16.
Okay, so a lot better than I thought. But he threw a lot of the incomplete pass. I feel like popped up a ton.
Sanford had 77 offensive yards.
Yes, I knew we held them under 100, which is once
1
again
and 11.
not an
now
accomplishment.
Sanford.
Hey,
All
they
right.
had some guys finish with good PFF grades.
I'm sure they did because, like, if they got a bunch of tackles, they had to face 37 passes and 43 runs.
Yeah.
Golly, they had to be tired.
At least Sanford did. Sorry, I'm sure
Oh,
it
that's...
might have been even more.
But then you have Alabama, and they...
Bama had 30 carries or 49 carries and 30 pass attempts, 79 snaps.
All right. Crazy. Other...
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about this game too much because there's not really much of a break, like a takeaway to have. But the Notre Dame-Syracuse game was just ridiculous in terms of Notre Dame opens the game with pick 6, punt return for a touchdown, pick 6, and then they get the ball back, and their offense finally trots out there, and they're already up 21-0. They only had, I think, 18 minutes of total possession, time of possession in this game, but won 70-7. Jeremiah Love was phenomenal. I think he had like 14 yards a carry or something crazy like that.
21,
even better. Just one of the bigger dominations of a Power 4 team that you'll ever see.
team that beat Clemson this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be really interesting to see how that finishes out because as the way the last week college football playoff rankings, Oklahoma was at 8 and Notre Dame was 9. I really don't expect any of the teams, all the teams ahead of Oklahoma will be favored in the remainder of their games, or they're so far ahead that they won't fall. So there's a real possibility we get Oklahoma hosting Notre Dame, and that would be crazy to see Jeremiah Love against that Oklahoma run defense.
Versus strength, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a very, very fun matchup to watch.
Notre Dame would be favored, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it was 3.5 last week that paid to produce from FanDuel.
Gotcha.
Which makes sense. I think Notre Dame would be a pretty easy pick right off the bat. Just on paper, you look at it with OU's offense, the way they're playing right now, they'd have to flip the turnover battle again.
Yeah.
And then it's strength versus strength. So even if Oklahoma won that strength, I think still C.J. Carr and those receivers could make enough plays to go win down there in Norman. But that, I think that was one of my takeaways earlier. The top 14 teams, nobody lost. And so you're going to see no movement, I think, Tuesday, because I think it's really hard to argue even with Oregon's win over a 15th-ranked USC and OU's win over a 22-ranked Missouri. How do you move them above, each other? You can't move OU above Oregon because Oregon beat a higher-ranked team, both at home, no difference. And then how are you supposed to move them above the school up north at 6?
Who beat Oklahoma?
Who has beaten Oklahoma? Good luck with that. Or Texas Tech, who didn't play last week either. I don't know how they're going to do that, which now we're going to get into a log jam. And that'll be something we talk about in our buy and sell later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. There really shouldn't be much movement.
You can disagree with the committee rankings from last week if you want. I don't particularly care. I don't remember my initial feelings, but I would
This week's
rather
will matter so much.
Yeah, I would rather just don't touch them because if they start moving around, then I think if I were a admin of a team, would start to panic. Like, well, what are they doing? Like, what are they taking into account if they ranked the teams last week, we all win, and then they start to shake things up, and they do say, oh, Oklahoma's going to jump Oregon, and Notre Dame's going to jump up to 5 ahead. That's where I would start to get really nervous, is if the committee started moving things around. I'd rather just leave 1 through 14 the same. Personally.
I'm fine with that, but then you get into a really, really hard problem because if Notre Dame beats the brakes off Stanford this weekend, and then Bama survives Auburn, and they would go play in the SEC championship game, I'm sure. unless Bama wins the SEC, how can you make an argument that Bama should be ranked higher than Notre Dame? And this is where making the statements early on matter a ton, because eventually we're going to get down the road and we're going to have to compare these teams. And I think we're going to be really, really close into a crash course of Miami and Notre Dame being really close to each other.
And we're not the same pod, whatever that means.
We've set that precedent for weeks on end. How are we going to change it after conference championship when we're making our final playoff bracket? I don't know. And so this is where I think early on it matters way more than you think how they rank these teams. Because
Agreed.
They can say all they want that it's a clean slate the next week, but then when you make a change, you have to explain it. And they, like Pate has explained, and a lot of the people that have watched the extra show, they're terrible at explaining the reasons for the things that they're picking, like saying, well, when we compared Notre Dame and Miami, we really compared the losses.
Terrible.
Notre Dame has lost to Miami.
Is this crazy to me to be like, sometimes because they are a committee, and this is the reason we went away with computers, is because we decided that, like, sometimes I guess more than stats matter.
Yeah, eye tests and stuff like
Eye
that.
test matters. Is it crazy that sometimes I'm like, can they just not say, or like I just want them to say, we think this team is better? Like for Notre Dame, you say, yes, we know Notre Dame lost us 2 games earlier, and they matter, and this is why they're sitting down where they are. But however, when we watch them play, we all firmly believe they're a top 12 team in the country, and that's why they're in the top 12.
It's something that they have done, especially in the 4-team era. They did it on multiple cases where they said, no, we think this team's better. The biggest one is Alabama and Florida State.
Yep.
Yeah.
We think Alabama is a better team than a team without your starting quarterback, and Florida State, even though that they won the ACC championship. But that they go away from that for whatever reason.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like sometimes they're just scared to say it, so they have to like make up another reason based off a stat, and that's when they get to like, well, their losses are better, and it's like, I just think you think this team is better, but you like want there to be some
logic
or some evidence to back it up. When in reality, we created the committee to go in, and we have put the decision in their hands. So like, just go make the decision. And yeah, if you just want to be like, we think this team is better, I may not agree, but I guess I'll just respect your opinion.
Yeah. I bet you the committee, if I were a committee member, I am very sad that Utah, they came back and won that game.
They did
I think
win.
they were down, had a game-winning drive. Very sad Utah had that win. I'm the biggest Tennessee Vol fan this weekend. I don't know who Miami has left. I think they're
at Pitt.
At Pitt, so you're
Which
big.
could be a little tough.
Yeah, big
Ranked
Pitt
matchup.
fan.
Very tough.
But if Pitt, what is Pitt ranked currently?
Pitt was not ranked last week. They just beat the brakes off GT, so
That's
they're more than likely going to slide back into that 20-25 range.
And they're second in the ACC right now.
Yeah, they need
this is getting so good.
They need one of SMU or Virginia to lose.
Yeah.
Which is unlikely. Virginia hosts Virginia Tech, and then I don't remember off the top of my head who SMU plays.
I don't
now.
remember either.
SMU plays Cal at Cal,
That's right.
so possibility.
Both of those teams will be favored in those games. Cal just fired their head coach, so
Agreed.
They're going to need one of those two things to happen, and they still have to beat Miami. So it's not done for Pitt, but it seems unlikely.
It's going to be electric down the stretch to see how it all plays out.
It's going to be a big weekend. Pete Nakos talked about games that are going to have playoff implications. Of course, Ohio State, Michigan, the game. Michigan can still make the Big Ten championship. Vanderbilt, Tennessee might be a play-in game for Vandy, but I wouldn't guarantee that.
You can't lose it, so it does have playoff implications because
Absolutely.
if you win that game, it clutters things up in the 9 to 12 range. If you lose it, then you're just out. So,
that'll be a debate we get into in buy and sell. I don't know if a Vandy win, if things above them happen, that it even matters. Of course, Texas A&M, Texas on Black Friday, Georgia Tech, Georgia, also on Black Friday, right?
Yes, the afternoon slot.
Indiana, Purdue. Indiana still has to make it to the Big Ten championship game. Texas Tech, at West Virginia. Of course, the Egg Bowl on Friday morning. Oregon, Washington, OU, LSU, Notre Dame, Stanford, the Iron Bowl, Bama and Auburn. BYU goes to hosts UCF, I should say, for a play-in to the Big 12 championship game. Arizona State could have implications if BYU were to lose. Utah, Kansas, that's an at-large spot. Miami, Pitt, Virginia, Virginia Tech, SMU, Cal, all 3 games we just talked about. Charlotte at Tulane for the American. Temple at North Texas for the American. And JMU, Coastal Carolina. That is roughly, it's in the teens.
Yeah.
17 or 18 games.
Well, and you know what's even crazier? My brother-in-law was talking about this with me earlier. The top 10 teams, 9 of them play away. Now, one of them is away in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So really 8 teams play true away games. Most of those against their rivals. And a lot of those, their rivals are like good enough that it's like there's a realistic chance of an upset or them losing.
Most of those, I'm sure, are single-digit spreads.
The only exception really to that is Notre Dame plays at Stanford. I don't really expect Stanford to hang around and like make that a game. Crazier things have happened, but in terms of spreads, I bet that one's a double-digit spread.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the games that are not going to be competitive, in all likelihood, Indiana at Purdue.
They're
that one as well.
28.5 point favorite.
I forgot about that one.
Ohio State, Michigan should be competitive. Indiana goes to Purdue. That will likely not be competitive. A&M, Texas could absolutely be competitive. Georgia Tech should be competitive. Oregon, Washington could be competitive. Ole Miss, Mississippi State could be competitive.
Will be competitive.
Texas Tech plays
at West Virginia.
They are 20.5 point favorites, so that falls in the not competitive list. Oklahoma plays LSU, I believe.
Correct.
Hosts LSU. That's a 10.5 point spread right now. So
that's going to be competitive right down the wire.
I mean, Oklahoma probably won't score enough for them to really truly put the game away. But
I think it'll look like the Missouri game.
It's 14-3 or something.
I think it'll be like 17-6 again.
Yeah.
Notre Dame plays Stanford. Alabama goes to Auburn. That should be competitive. BYU plays UCF. That should not be competitive. Spread there is 18.5, and then Vanderbilt goes to Tennessee. It's going to be electric.
For the week we just had the past week felt like calm before the storm in a ton of ways. I really have one other specific game I want to talk about. I just want to say rip to my Houston Cougars. The kicker has multiple chances down the stretch to tie the game.
Yep.
Misses both, and as the broadcast is talking about, he's been great all year. Just disastrous.
Common theme on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a game TCU really needed. They kind of slid. They didn't want a big game really all year, unless you want to count the UNC game, just because it was.
I would count it.
I would too, because it's first game of the season. We don't know what to expect from UNC. You're in a solo time slot. Were they Monday night or Monday night? When TCU beat the brakes off UNC. And just the way they went to was so emphatic. Well, I was talking about Houston, but they played TCU.
I see.
And it just hurt watching him just chunk that last kick. And then he's in a squat on the field. Connor Weigman's desolate on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It just hurt.
It is, look, I will continue to say not watching field goals it's such a better experience.
Crazy you knew that he missed that before we all did.
I knew that he missed it, because I watched it on Reel. And, of course, Reel just tells you whether it was a make or a miss. And a lot of time you can tell because enough time will pass. And if he missed it, the score won't change. You'd be like, oh, no, he missed it.
Because the score will change right before the play happens.
Exactly. Yep. And, of course, if he makes it, the score will change just immediately, and you'll know, okay, he made it. It is – I recommend it to a lot of people because I hate watching field goals. I'm sure a lot of people.
It's like riding a roller coaster. I love
exactly.
it.
I love watching a field goal when my team is not in it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Watching A&M have to kick a clutch field goal, especially this year, is terrible.
Hey, talk about our NFL teams.
Yeah. Well, now it doesn't matter because look, it's a win-win if they make it or miss it.
Same here. Blake Grupe missed
early
today.
in the season though. It was brutal. I'm really sad Matt Gay's not still on the team.
Yeah, it would be very helpful down the line.
It would be. Also, I guess the Giants it was almost a great day for the Commanders because I thought the Giants were going to win and the Cowboys won.
Yeah.
So really cementing ourselves as last in that division. But Giants couldn't get it done. We're getting off topic. Any other weekly takeaways before we get to the specific games?
No.
Anything from you, Sanders?
No.
I guess, just it really was kind of a dud of a week. Because even like,
We're gonna have to pick which games we'll preview at the end of this show.
yeah, we
Yeah.
will. Because even like we were like, oh man, maybe Florida has a chance against Tennessee. Just nope.
Yeah.
Maybe Kentucky, like they've been a little frisky recently. Can they give Vandy some issues? Nope. It's so bad that Diego Pavia's mom is doing the Heisman pose in the stands. Just bad all
Thought
around.
Pitt, Georgia Tech was going to be a good game.
It was a good game. I don't know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We can get into that one a little bit, but
Yeah.
I thought it was a great game.
I'm excited to talk about
I
that one.
picked Pitt to cover, so I thought it was a
I'm
great
mad
game
I
too.
didn't.
Okay.
I actually I'm not because I rode with my boy Haynes King, and I'm not at all upset I didn't get off that wagon.
It's the same here.
So it didn't end the way I wanted it to, but shout out my boy Haynes King.
I'm distraught. Yeah.
Cool. We want to get into our
Let's-
reviews, starting with our team.
We can
Yeah.
start with our team.
BYU goes on the road to Cincinnati in what should be their last tough regular season test. It is their last tough regular season test. You could obviously lose to UCF next weekend because crazy things happen in college football, but no one is classifying that as a tough test to end the season. And they survived their last tough test. They went 26-14 in what is very much a BYU game. Nothing about the yardage indicates that they won this game. Nothing like that, but they force a key turnover on Cyrus Allen. He fumbles in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati's kicker can't buy a field goal, and you mentioned he'd been good all season, but you play BYU, crazy things happen. I was gonna say Mormon magic, but it's LDS magic. Pulls through, and like I said, they win 26-14. Another good game from them, and BYU just couldn't execute in key moments. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, biggest one is right off the bat. What other stat do you need? I think there's two of them, and you could tell me these two stats. I think it's over, and you could tell a lot more stats, but I guess these would be your padlock stats. Cincinnati kicker is 0-3. I think it's over. LJ Martin has 266 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Domination.
I think it's domination. I think it's all BYU. That being said, BYU didn't dominate. They were very much in this game with Cincinnati the whole way, but I'd argue that they controlled it really, really well. Kicker was 23 for 24 in the year coming into the game. He's 0-3, and I know I've made this joke before on the show, and I've actually gotten praise for it outside of the show, so I'm going to make it again. You know, sometimes the Lord and His will has different plans for you. And you can be kicking it well all year, and then when it's the biggest moment of your life, biggest game of your season at that point, not Goodwill version of the Walmart version of College Game Day is there with Big Noon Kickoff and Dave Portnoy, and you're hosting BYU. It's a huge ranked matchup against the 11th team in the country. You're 23 for 24, and you go 0-3 that day. You know, sometimes it's just the Lord has a different plan for you. Sometimes the girl says no to you, and you have to move on. Sometimes you fail the test you thought you were prepared for, and you have to move on. And that is, unfortunately, the case for Cincinnati and his kicker. You can't feel bad for him, but it's not his will. It's God's will, and God had a different plan for him that night.
I feel like our BYU segments are slowly becoming more spiritual than our other
As
segments.
they should, because this felt that way. BYU had a simple game plan. LJ Martin had 35 touches, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns. Their best receiver, Chase Roberts, left the game at halftime. Kalani Sitake said he wasn't feeling right and that he felt he would hurt the team if he kept playing, and so he doesn't come out and play in the second half. He comes out in street clothes, and without Chase Roberts, they were fine. They leaned on LJ Martin. LJ just refused to give up. There were a lot of times it looked like he was hurt. He continued to get big yardage. He got right up off the turf there in Cincinnati, and they got right back in the huddle and took the handoff again. Sorsby, I got to give a ton of credit.
Best game of the season?
I don't think so because they didn't win, and I think quarterback wins is a part of that. But for him to respond the way he did with that turnover, which was a terrible pick, he was really, really good. 300 yards, 38 on the ground, 2 touchdowns. My biggest one, and I have 2 takeaways for each of the 2 teams. For Cincinnati, like I feel like you have to have almost frustration with the game plan. They have 2 really, really good players, in Evan Pryor and Caleb Goody. Evan Pryor had just 10 touches for 84 yards. That's your running back. L.J. Martin, on the other hand, had 35 for 266. Something like that cannot happen. And then the other one, Caleb Goody, who returns for this game, their very, very talented receiver, has just 4 catches for 37 yards. Chase Roberts doesn't play in the second half, but Parker Kingston got his touches. He had 7 for 39. Very similar in the yardage, I get it, but he had 7 touches. He was involved in this game. He also had a carry on the ground. Why aren't you getting it to your playmakers against an elite defense? You can argue maybe the elite defense takes it away, but everyone knows when you watch the Chiefs that Mahomes is going to try to get the ball to Travis Kelce. Doesn't matter. He's going to get the ball to Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Cincinnati legend, Travis Kelce. I feel like you have to have some frustration there with the game plan for Cincinnati. And on the other hand, for BYU, for me, fraud you is being said in the chat from various members in the chat. And I feel like a lot of people are going to say that. But their resiliency and knowing how to control a football game really pops on screen. It really shows for me. There's some bias to that, maybe. But they never trailed on the road.
Yeah.
And at that point, the biggest game in their season, when Cincinnati tied the game, they drove the field. They took the lead back with a field goal. When Cincinnati cut the lead to 6 in the fourth and the crowd's getting hype, they go 9 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. Put them out of the game immediately. That is what great teams do. It was something I talked about in the pregame. They are really incredible on the road for the talent profile that they have. They're now 10-2 the last 2 years with their only losses to Arizona State and Texas Tech. Arizona State last year, playoff team. Texas Tech this year, a playoff team. This team just doesn't lose. It may not look pretty, but no game on the road is ever looking amazing unless the team just gives up, a la LSU, when Bama goes there, A&M goes there. So I think you have to give a ton of credit to BYU because given the talent profile that they had, missing their best receiver, they had one game plan in mind, and it worked. And they showed a ton of control over that football game, controlling the time of possession a ton because of that.
Yeah. I think it's very fair. I will say about the Cincinnati play calling, I do think it is I do think it is partially on play calling, but because, I mean, it's like your job to get your best guys open and help your guys move the ball down the field. But also, in a sense, this has been their issue in every big game they've played, even like the Utah game of, oh, man, their playmakers look really good against lesser competition, and then they can't show up in the bigger games. So I do, at some point, it's like I do have to wonder, are the really good players really actually not like elite players? How much of it is on the game plan and how much of it is on them? Because, they just really haven't showed up in their bigger games offensively. I do think Sorsby was great. He hit 300 passing yards, and the biggest critique of him has been when the run game isn't going and they can't lean on the run game, he kind of crumbles and isn't accurate enough, and that wasn't the case last night. It didn't matter because they lost.
Yeah, he'd been averaging, it was either 16 or 17 completions per game this year.
Yeah.
He's 25 in this game.
Mm-hmm.
When the run game was not working against this touted BYU front, they were able to lean on him through the air, and he was really, really good outside of the pick, which was terrible. I laid out several keys for this game, and for our Cougars, I'd still kind of argue that they're my Cougars for the most part.
All right, cool.
They are yours more than mine. I do still think is still apt. Like, it does fit. Either works. I'm not gonna. Maybe Sanders will take offense to but I'll allow either.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know why you're trying to claim sole ownership of the BYU Cougars.
Because y'all think Texas Tech is going to beat BYU.
You don't think Texas Tech is going to beat BYU in the championship game?
If they play again, I will be picking BYU.
Okay. Enjoy.
They've got to get there, though. Texas Tech still has to get there, too.
Also true.
Swordsby had only been sacked 3 times on the year. He was just sacked once in the game. You would think advantage BYU. Or not advantage BYU. Advantage Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He's only sacked once. BYU had 4 sacks against Josh Hoover last week. But Swordsby was pressured 21 times. That's the second most of the season. Even more alarming, he had only been pressured a double-digit amount of times twice this season prior to this game, at Kansas and at Utah. And again, he was pressured 21 times from that BYU front. BYU really got after him, and although they weren't able to bring him down to the ground, they pressured him all night, forced him into his terrible pick. BYU ran for 265 on the road. That was something we talked about in the breakdown of this game. Cincinnati was 90th in the country in rushing yards allowed per game, and BYU was top 35. BYU dominated. And then another one was Cincinnati, their fast starts. They had been averaging 9.3 first quarter points per game this year, 0 first quarter points. Yep. They were driving late in the first and then had the turnover on downs where they fumbled the football to start the second, but still 0 first quarter points at home in your biggest game of the season for the Bearcats. Cincinnati, kind of a bad luck stat, avoided the penalties. They were, I think I compared them, to Mississippi State in terms of how many penalty yardage they have. They were averaging 70 per game. They have just 40 that night, so an advantage towards them, but a bad luck stat at the end of it. I really enjoyed watching this because the other games going on were not great, especially one that we'll break down here in a little bit. But it was really fun having it's something I love about college football. It's really fun having other like teams that you root for and that you really care about. And for me, for the most part, I have a few teams that I will cheer for every year. But throughout the course of the year, I'll end up picking a team and I'll be like, I really fall in love with them. Last year was Penn State. I really fell in love with Penn State. This year it's BYU. It's so fun getting to watch that as a State fan. It's just really refreshing.
Yeah.
It's really refreshing.
Fair
to look, you could call it bandwagoning if you want, because last year I picked Penn State and this year I'm picking BYU, but backing them and them following through on that more often than Mississippi State does, of course, is really, really fun. But then also just getting to fall in love with new characters like Bear Bachmeier. Parker Kingston is a freaking dog. Chase Roberts is going to be great. LJ that was his best game of the year, inarguably. That's something I really, really enjoy about college football, because I don't think you get that really from the NFL. The only time you get that, I think, is when you cheer for that team because some of the guys on that team went to your college. Like I cheer for the Cowboys because Dak is a Cowboy. It was a Bulldog. Sure. It's something I love about college football, and I caught myself doing that throughout the night.
I think the important caveat is, like, as long as you're not trying to say that, like, oh, I saw it, like, for any team, to be like, oh, I saw this coming and I was a fan. And I'm the same way. Like, I've been an Iowa fan that year. They went 10-2. I was rooting for them to get the Big Ten championship and win that. As long as you are like clear, like, oh, this team, they got to 4-0, 5-0, and I just fell in love with how they got there and the way they were winning. And I was like, I'm gonna, cheer for this team for the rest of the season. As long as it's like a clear, like, I'm not trying to be like, because sometimes
you'll hop on a team preseason because you decide to believe from the jump, and then you can take that credit.
Yeah. That is also
but you
a
are
possibility.
right.
Preseason picks, I think, are a part of that, yes. Like I picked Georgia when the SEC, and I'm cheering for Georgia this year when normally I would never cheer for Georgia.
Same with Bama here.
Yeah, exactly. But I've really enjoyed.
I do agree. You have to be honest with how it started, however that may be.
This one, they showed the support.
It started with winning.
Yeah. Well, they
showed the support to us, and so we're going to show it back.
Yeah, reciprocating.
Yeah, it still holds the lead for the most viewed video we've ever done. I think 2 of the top 10
Cougs.
videos have been BYU videos. So, big BYU podcast.
I do want to take, I'll take more so my victory lap when we get to the other game, but I do want to take a little bit of a victory lap in that I think I was correct, and you guys can't disagree because it was my feelings, but I was more nervous about this game and the Georgia Tech game than proposing on Saturday.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you.
Yeah,
there.
I'm not going to push back. That's all you. You
Yeah.
got it.
You
can
I
victory
trust
lap
you
that
to tell
one.
the truth on that. So I'm glad they came through for you. Let me just say that.
Well, I think I was also just vindicated in how kind of nerve-wracking that game ends up being.
Sure.
Closer than it feels like it should have been. A lot closer than Joel Klatt would have thought it would have been. I'm curious to see. He probably won't say anything about
No,
it when
it'll
he
be
talks
mute.
about the Georgia Tech Pittsburgh game. But yeah, it was 2.5 points for a reason, Joel.
This game or the Georgia Tech game?
Both.
Both. Did he complain about both?
He complained about both. Identical stance. What?
One was close, and the other one, the team that was favored, that you couldn't believe was only favored by that much, lost by multiple scores.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Tough.
I will also say, and we'll get into this more on our Tuesday preview show.
Monday.
Thank you. We're doing 2 shows Monday, not Tuesday. I'll be interested to see BYU really relies on the run game here. Actually, we won't talk about this on the Monday show. I'm curious, can they use that run game and translate it into a potential Texas Tech rematch? I'm just curious what this run game against Cincinnati means going forward. Do they kind of hit a stride? I think that's unlikely because I feel like most teams are not going to hit a stride week 13 and discover something about themselves.
Well, I mean, they've always been a solid running team this
Yeah,
year. LJ
yeah.
Martin's had good success, so I don't think it's necessarily like them hitting their stride. I just think he just had a good night.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just like, can they use that as to use that momentum going forward, have a dominant win against UCF, and then go into that Texas Tech game confident? Because I mean, that's kind of the reality. As a State fan, we've seen this. I think there are a lot of games we have lost, specifically against Alabama, where we could have been playing Starkville High. And if they were wearing Alabama uniforms, we would have lost.
Sure.
How much does that idea of momentum and belief and the previous performance you've put up against teams leading into a big matchup, I think that can play a part.
Well, if there's one thing I think BYU has, it's belief. So I think they'll be
Absolutely.
ready.
True.
They'll have trust that they can win that game.
They
And
might have the Lord on their side as well, potentially.
well,
Allegedly.
debatable. It depends on who you ask. Shall we move on to another game then?
No, one more thing.
Yeah.
I know we're going to talk about it in our buy or sell, but since this would be part of the BYU video, they're going to need, well, for one, they control their own destiny still. They got to win the Big 12, and they're in. But they're going to need help to win the or to lose in the Big 12 championship and still make it.
For sure.
Because right now they sit at 11, and that with no one losing right now last weekend, they're cut off right now.
Is that 11 in last week's playoff ranking?
Last week's playoff rankings,
Yeah.
they're going to be 11 again this week. I fully believe that unless they have the guts to move them ahead of Alabama, which would be unbelievable for them to make that kind of change after 1 week, but it's possible. They did beat a good Cincinnati team. They're going to need help once they get into the Big 12 championship game if no one above them loses this weekend. So BYU, for our fans that are watching this video, you need to cheer for Auburn. You need to cheer for Stanford. Unlikely. You need to cheer for Mr. President, Michael Van Buren and LSU. You need to cheer for Damon Williams in Washington.
Please, Damon.
You need to cheer for Rich Rod in West Virginia. You need to cheer for Georgia Tech. And then you need, of course, to still cheer for Texas or Auburn so that Georgia goes to the SEC championship. And then you need to cheer for whoever Georgia plays, so A&M in that case, to beat them by 75.
Yeah.
Because I think there's an avenue still that Georgia misses
You didn't even mention
the playoff.
You didn't even mention the fact that we're about to unite fan bases. We have a mutual interest. You didn't even mention that.
I don't think it matters what happens on Friday for the school up north unless they
Really?
lost by 75.
Well, I think if they lose and Lane Kiffin leaves,
Or they make some kind of argument that impacts the team, which they've done before.
Yeah.
And if they did it, would celebrate it.
Yeah.
And I will back it up.
And for clarity, this is a state podcast. It's how we started. So we're talking about uniting. Yeah, we got a cowbell there. That may be the only state thing we have on. No, I've got a poster and then this poster.
We got Dak here.
And so we're talking about uniting fan bases. We all want the same thing. BYU wants Ole Miss to fall. I think that there's a possibility that if Ole Miss loses, they fall to
well, the committee respects State as a quality team. So obviously,
I'm going to have to think the only way that happens is if they make the argument that Lane leaving impacts the team, and they lost.
And no, I'm not going to say that. I don't know. I think that
But right now, I think they're one
Where
of
are
the
they up at?
only.
They're at 6.
Yeah, I
They
just
were
don't
at
see them
6.
falling.
I could see them falling from 6 to 11. I could see a 11-1 BYU team being over a 10-2 Ole Miss team.
But my issue is BYU's already ranked behind all the other 2-loss SEC teams besides Vandy. But like most of them, they're already behind. So I don't see Ole Miss falling behind them.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a chance though. You should still root for it because you never know.
Yeah.
There's
I
no
think
reason not to.
Right now, assuming that they don't do the head coach thing, they are one of 3 teams that are locks that are in right now, no matter what
Only
happens.
3?
Only 3. Ohio State, A&M, and the Sculp North.
How is Indiana not a lock?
If they lose to 28 as a 28.5-point favorite to Purdue,
Sure.
and then lose the Big Ten championship game resoundingly,
No.
I think there is an argument
No.
for if BYU, Utah, Miami, Vanderbilt
No.
I
finish out
personally will
strong.
be putting the lock
Let's-
status on Indiana.
No, but let's say Michigan beats Ohio State. Ohio
Yeah.
State's in. Indiana loses to Purdue
Mm-hmm.
by double digits, and then they lose to Michigan by double digits as well.
but then Michigan's in the playoffs, no?
Michigan is in the playoffs, yeah. Michigan's in the playoffs if they win the Big Ten.
And they might be ahead of
Yeah,
it.
obviously.
There's no JP.
It's a 99.9%, but I think there's a
He's
path
just
for
not
them
calling
to
it
miss
a
the
lock.
playoff.
All right.
No.
Also, Fernando Mendoza tears his ACL.
And Kurt Signetti retires.
Well, there you go.
I don't think you made the same argument about Marcel Reed, Trinidad Chambliss, and Julian Sand.
I personally would really not want to see Tyler O'Neill lead
I don't-
my
if
offense
Texas-
into the playoffs.
If Texas
but
beats A&M by 100. Or let's do 70 because
75 is the
If
the
they
number
beat them
we
by
like to use.
75, Marcel Reed tears his ACL, and then they lose again in the SEC
we won't go to
championship.
the SEC championship at that point, most
Y'all
likely.
still could. You're undefeated in the SEC.
They
we would
would-
have to have because it goes to
You would
strength
have to have-
of strength of opponents in the SEC. So Ole Miss would have to lose, and I think Bama would have to lose.
Correct.
Well, that's
You'd
going to
have to
happen.
have the
And then
other
the
two
SEC
upsets.
championship, your second string quarterback also tears his ACL.
Brady Hart, we ride.
I think Texas A&M's in really, regardless of what
I
happens.
agree.
But I think there's an argument for Indiana to not make it. We kind of got off task
Yeah,
there.
all this
for
to
the
say,
BYU,
BYU
video, but BYU needs to cheer for Auburn, Stanford, LSU, Washington State if you want to. Feel free. West Virginia,
torn ACLs. Don't forget those.
Purdue, or you need Georgia Tech to lose, play in the SEC championship, and then lose by 75. And I do think you need to cheer for your rival, Utah.
Against
Because that's a huge barrier of entry. If the teams below them aren't going to go above Utah, then I think you need to continue cheering for Utah because you're going to be above Utah regardless of what happens. I
Yeah.
think.
I think that's fair.
cool. Next up, we've got. We want to do this game?
Yeah, there's a game we previewed.
Snooze fest.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about
missed.
this game too much.
We missed.
That's on me, team. I pushed for this game and I was wrong.
Well, I mean, as soon as I'll just start with this.
Sure.
It comes out that Miller Moss got hurt in a workout on Thursday, I believe, and then he ends up not playing. And at that point, there were already bad vibes around Louisville. And then it comes out he's not playing, and the bad vibes are suddenly terrible. You don't even have your starting quarterback, who's one of your better players, and in a lot of ways the engine of your offense. And then also the other engine of your offense, your running backs are banged up. A couple of them aren't playing. And all that culminates in you going to SMU and losing 38-6 in what's a blowout. Kevin Jennings does his thing. Once again, you don't have your quarterback, so you can't really test the bad coverage unit that is SMU's secondary.
Yep.
And so then their front seven just gets to stay stout all day. They don't have to worry about, helping in the secondary. They can stack the box, bring numbers, and it's just bad news bears. And there's just not really much else to say about this game, I feel. But if y'all want to chime in, feel free.
Yeah, I feel bad that I watched even seconds of this broadcast because I had to listen to Sam Acho.
For real?
He was on the broadcast.
That should be illegal.
Yeah. Not Emmanuel Acho, but either of the Achos are terrible. I hate's a strong word. I dislike them a lot.
I'd say I dislike Sam. I would say I think I hate Emmanuel Acho.
I think that's a fair one.
The meme where it's like Emmanuel Acho, it's Emmanuel Acho time. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen
but
that
it's
one.
so accurate. Of like you just know he goes on air and he's like, "This is my time. Like time to get my takes off."
Get into character.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, Miller Moss was a game time decision, so they start the freshman, and it goes like you thought it would with any freshman quarterback. 12 for 17 for 94 yards through the air.
Yeah.
This is against a bottom 5 pass defense in the country, too. It's just atrocious. And SMU just cooks. Kevin Jennings protected the football. Credit to him. Bill Belichick's girlfriend had a day, and the day was ideal for SMU. Kevin Jennings was 29 for 37, 303 for 3 touchdowns. And Bill Belichick's girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, had 8 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. And SMU now is essentially a lock to be in the ACC championship. They control their own destiny.
Yeah.
They just have to beat, I again forgot.
I got you. Give me a second.
Hold up. I literally just looked. I should remember this.
Cal. They go to Cal.
Cal.
At Cal, who just fired the head coach to make the ACC championship game in Rhett Lashley's final year as the SMU head coach, potentially.
I think since there's not tons to talk about in terms of the game, and you just hit on how SMU now controls their own destiny, does this feel like because I saw a Louisville Cardinal fan say this on Twitter, that this really feels like a lost season or like a missed opportunity, a chance that was lost because you go and beat Miami, and now you've gone on this absolute slide. And some of his injuries, you can't control that, but they've definitely lost some games they shouldn't have lost. And that's something we didn't necessarily, Jeff Brom was good at that, at avoiding slides, consistent finishes. And now if you go lose to Kentucky, it's 7-5.
Yeah.
And that really just feels very disappointing. Would you all agree with that assessment?
I would 100% agree. You can't.
If they beat Kentucky and they go 8-4, would you still feel a little disappointed?
Yes,
with their season?
I would.
Okay. Because I think 7-5, it's so obvious to say they're disappointing. Like there's no really argument there.
Because Miller Moss played in the Cal and Clemson game, and I would argue losing at home is what hurts the worst. And they lost 3 games at home this year in ACC play against Virginia, Cal, and Clemson. That can't happen. You need to win those games at home. The issue coming into the season and why I think people could have been potentially low on Louisville was because they had to go to Miami and to Virginia Tech and to SMU and to Pitt. But they've handled their business for the most part there. They're 3-1 on the road. At home, you can't lose those kinds of games. It hurts. I think it's definitely a disappointment, regardless of what happens in the Kentucky game, which at this point, there's no guarantee that goes their way. They're only 3.5-point favorites against Kentucky and Mark Stoops.
And those first 3 losses were by combined 7 points. I think that's another thing that hurts a lot. Like you said, the 3 losses at home. And like you said, coming into the season, their schedule looked not way harder. It turned out to be a challenging schedule, but that Miami game and the Clemson game and the SMU game all loomed very large.
Mm-hmm.
And then you handle the Miami game, and then you end up, losing a close game to Virginia, but you still get to 7-1, and Virginia is a top 15 team, so it doesn't matter. And then that 2-game split, two losses by 4 points, both at home. It does feel like a lost season. Kind of, and this didn't happen, so it's not a good comparison, but had Oregon lost that USC game after the Penn State win, it kind of feels like you could start making a similar argument for that Louisville win over Miami was Oregon's win over Penn State, where you reach that high, and then it's downhill from there. You lose to Indiana at home, and then if they lost to USC, now you're outside of the playoffs. I feel like Louisville's in a similar situation where, they reached this peak, and you kind of thought that there was a real shot at the playoffs or an ACC championship appearance, and then you're going to finish the season at 7-5 or 8-4.
Yeah, I will say I feel like it's a little different.
It definitely is.
Just because the expectations there of Oregon expects to win that Penn State game. They expect to be squarely in the playoff conversation. Louisville's kind of this team that hopes to be in the playoff conversation. We talked about in the preseason show in terms of when we previewed their season. It was like they've kind of been this well-oiled machine that likes to win 9 games a season, 8, 9, 10 games a season, including bowl games. But do they have the juice and the chops to break through to that top tier? And we were wrong because they didn't stay at the well-oiled machine, and now they could finish 7-5, and that's not kind of their consistent floor. It's just one season. Very fluctuation happens. They can easily bounce back. But it is in the sense of like they peaked early, and they probably after that game did not think this is where they would end up. That is a similar comparison. Now Oregon won the game, so they don't have to worry about it. But
to talk about them positively, though, they kept their head coach in a crazy head coaching cycle.
yeah, and I
Miller
really
Moss.
like Jeff Brom. I think this is more of an anomaly than like a sign of things to come.
Miller Moss returns next season, and anything's possible.
Yeah, anything is possible.
They're going to win a big game next year again. They just got to capitalize down the stretch.
Yeah,
Cool. Next game.
yeah. Let's do it.
Pitt at Georgia Tech. Is that what we want to do next?
Yeah,
Because we didn't preview Missouri, Oklahoma, right?
No, we did not. We already talked about it. So. Sorry, I'm scrolling too.
No, you good. You good.
Pitt goes on the road to Georgia Tech. They're 2.5-point underdogs, which some people could not believe. And you better believe it because very quickly they were out to a 28-0 lead, and it felt like Georgia Tech fans were going to witness a murder in their home stadium. To Georgia Tech's credit, they got up off the mat a little bit, threw a couple punches, made you tune back in late to kind of see what was going to happen, but ultimately they fell short and they lose 42-28 in a pretty heartbreaking loss considering what their aspirations were. You were hoping you were in the driver's seat for the ACC championship game, and you're now no longer in the driver's seat. But y'all's thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the moment. Sanders, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to
Go
say,
ahead.
I wish that I had, this was some sort of like analytic, like I picked Pittsburgh to cover, and I wish that it had been some sort of like great analysis by me. I just had really good vibes from Pittsburgh coming into this game, and it was kind of a shot in the dark upset. I did not see this kind of.
Well, they're only 2.5-point underdogs.
Yeah, I know, but it's not like I was like had a great feeling about it. I was just like, I just feel like Pittsburgh is going to cover, and so maybe I just have a seer moment. But great game from the running back, Jakarian Turner, 186 on the ground with a touchdown. Haynes King's 2 interceptions is really unfortunate for them. It's going to be hard when that happens and the other quarterback has 0 interceptions. You're going to lose that turnover battle 2-0. That's a hard thing to recover from. But the run game from Pittsburgh was just really impressive. 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground, just dominant run game. So a big day on the ground from them.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you had to be worried about as a Georgia Tech fan going into this game is the defense has not given you comfort, any reason to really trust in the past couple weeks. Though you've won, you had to worry that maybe this was going to be the week the defense bit you, and that's what happened because the offense didn't come out firing. Georgia Tech's offense, that is, and the defense didn't pick up any of the slack, and that's how you end up down 28-0. There was no complimentary football being played. And then it was just the offense tries to fight back. It's too little, too late. But JP, your thoughts?
Well, I'd argue that you knew what the defense was going to be coming into the game.
That's what I'm saying. But when the offense sputters, you can at least hope that maybe this is the defense goes, it's our time to strap in and make a play for once.
I'd argue they did. As soon as they put up that Georgia Tech with a win advances to the ACC championship on the score bug, the drama and the just expecting disaster rose to the roof. I talked about it in a chat prior to proposing on Saturday, but I felt more nervous about this game and the BYU game than I did about proposing a couple hours later. And I was vindicated in that with how this game went. And as soon as they put that up there on the score bug, that is just a nightmare to see. I don't know if you felt this, Shaq, but maybe you might have felt this last year with A&M and Texas when they had winner goes to the SEC championship on the score bug the whole way. But it's different in this one because it was one-sided.
Sure.
Towards Georgia Tech the whole way. If you had to imagine, I would imagine when you prepare for a game all week, you like to think of the potential scenarios that would occur, the potential spots you might be in. How would that first quarter go? How would the first couple series go? And I don't think you could even have dreamt of this nightmare scenario. And people are very pessimistic in their lives when it comes to projecting what their actions are going to be and they like to think of worst-case scenario. I don't think he could have gotten any worse than this. Georgia Tech, on their first 5 drives, had 11 total yards, turned the ball over twice. Those 5 drives were a 3-and-out, 1 first down, and a turnover on downs. A 3 and interception, which is worse than a 3-and-out. And then another 3-and-out. On the first 3-and-out, there are no Haynes King runs. The first drive of the game, no Haynes King on the ground, 3-and-out. The second one, a false start on 2nd and 2. It gets back to 2nd and 7. It's a negative play. It pushes you back 3-and-out. The turnover on downs, you run a running back screen on 4th and 3. This is a team that's relied on Haynes King all season. We took the ball out of Haynes King's hand. I will never understand it. It will never make any sense to me. The next drive, a 3 and interception. Haynes King has no runs on the drive. Again, makes no sense to me. And then the following drive is a 3-and-out where Haynes King misses a touchdown to the running back on a seam route. The safeties have split entirely. It's a running back and a linebacker. He overthrows them. It would have been 28-7. Pitt, on their first 5 drives, you thought those drives were bad for Georgia Tech, and you thought, oh, well, if that happens, Jack at least would believe that the defense might respond against this Pitt offense. They didn't. They responded on the first one. Pitt on their first drive has 2 first downs and then a punt, but after that, they go 3 plays, 69 yards for a touchdown, 6 plays, 55 yards for a touchdown, 4 plays, 28 yards for a touchdown, 8 plays, 69 yards for a touchdown. And I would argue, yet with all of that, Georgia Tech and their defense and their offense fought back. It's 28-14. In the second half, you forced a punt on the first drive of the second half, which was critical because Pitt got the football first coming out of the half. And even before that, you're able to force them into a field goal. And look, the defense didn't force the misses, but he misses the 2 field goals, one of them illegally because we're offsides. The second one is a point-blank miss. All the momentum is towards Georgia Tech. You forced Pitt to punt on their first drive. It's 3rd and goal from the 5, and Haynes King throws a pick 6. And it's 35-14. And what would have felt like a miracle that it would have been 28-21. It is suddenly 3 scores again. And yet with that, Georgia Tech fought back. It is 35-28 when Pitt gets the ball again with 6 minutes left, and Pitt responds. And this is where the defense did fail them, I would argue. But the only time they did, 4 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. Georgia Tech doesn't get a chance to go drive down the field and tie the game. I have to give a ton of credit for Georgia Tech for how they fought, but I will give 0 credit to Brent Key, to their offensive coordinator, to Haynes King. You cannot fail that drastically in that spot offensively. You cannot have your first 5 drives go for 1 first down, 11 total yards, and turn the ball over twice. You cannot take the ball out of your best player's hands in critical moments to start the game. Your defense, I get it. They gave up 28 points on those first 5 drives, but your defense the last 2 games against NC State and Boston College gave up 34 points and 48 points. So at this point, that's who they are. That's who they were going to be unless they forced a turnover.
Yeah, and I get that, but at the same time, you can't not also put the loss on them. Like, you can't be like, oh, they suck, and we knew they were going to suck, so I'm fine with them sucking. Like, there's not any of that sense. But that's, like, crazy.
I'm going to, because I think I feel that way or have felt that way in some spots with Mississippi State this year. We know what our defense is. We have no control over that. We have to go out. Ultimately, the goal of the game is to go score more points than the opposing team. And so I think offensively you have to feel that you have to go outscore the other offense. Not that you need the help shutting down that offense. My goal as a quarterback is to go outplay the opposing team's quarterback.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying the offense didn't fail. The offense, Haynes King threw multiple interceptions, turnover down. But I'm not going to give the defense a pass for the offense starts off terribly, and the defense gives up a touchdown on 4 of the 5 drives.
Sure.
You couldn't even hold them to a field goal one of those times or 2 of those times. Like, there just was no response by the defense. Major props, I completely agree, which I'm not at all surprised this Georgia Tech team did it, and that's fought back and showed grit and at least, like I said, made you tune back in the second half because it really looked like, I mean, it's 28-0. 28-0. It looked like it was going to be a murder. It looked like it was going to be one of those games where you go,
Sure.
this is going to get embarrassing. And the team, the defense and the offense, fought enough to not make it embarrassing.
Yeah, they avoided getting it. I think they avoided a splattering in Atlanta.
And
via-
Bobby Dodd.
Yeah, from Josh Pate. I think that was avoided. I never saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, Jacarian Turner goes for 201 on the ground. There's your padlock. Georgia Tech only goes for 121 on the ground. Yikes.
Yeah.
That can't happen. Georgia Tech did get after them. They got after Heinschel. They had 6 sacks, which now will continue to be a problem for Pitt. I'm sure that'll be a problem next week with Miami's pass rush and Ruben Bain. Look for him to set the sack record next Saturday and in an individual game, which I think is 7 sacks. I know that's what it is in the NFL. I don't know if that's what it is in college
I couldn't
football.
tell you.
What are you using?
ESPN said they had 201
That's
rushing yards.
so odd. So I use I use the stats like where the people who were at the stadium put the stats in, and this says he has 20 carries for 186.
So they just lost a carry. Someone's wrong about a carry somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know who. That's so odd. I don't know where.
ESPN's never been wrong before.
Maybe
Nope,
how many
never.
how many receiving touches does that say he has? Because maybe ESPN's calling
It says
one
he
a
has
rush.
4 for 12.
Okay, so that's the same here. That's what I was just curious. If
I
it was-
will say this does have 3 team carries for -4 yards. I don't know what team carries are. I don't know why they sometimes. Here, hold on, let me go
I mean,
check.
ESPN has the same thing. So
So I don't know. Wait, ESPN has 3 for -4 team
Mhm.
carries.
yeah,
Where the freak is this extra rush? I don't know.
Given all that, I'm going to take full credit for something that I introduced last week with these 2 games. Georgia Tech was clearly looking ahead to Georgia.
oh sure.
I refuse to believe you just weren't ready to go offensively to start this game and that you weren't
I
just
can believe it.
trying to save.
100%. It makes so much more sense than them looking ahead to
No,
a game that
I
doesn't matter.
think they may have been.
That game matters to them.
It does matter, but it doesn't. This game, for it to be a look-ahead game, the game after has to be more important by a landslide, and the Georgia game is not more important than your opportunity
Tell
to go
me
to
they-
the ACC championship
but
and compete for a playoff spot.
Tell me they weren't saving plays for the Georgia game.
They were not.
What
saving
plays do they have to save?
Haynes King runs. Clearly,
they've
they
seen-
didn't use the Haynes King
But
runs.
Georgia's has
They
all the
probably
tape
had
they
some
need,
creative one.
but they didn't even run QB power. They could have run QB power.
It just doesn't make
I think he
why.
only had 1 carry in the first 5 drives. That can't happen. Just like a game within the game thing. It was such a precarious moment. Whether or not for Georgia Tech to score quick out of the 2-minute warning in the first half, that was just something for watching this game close. Because Georgia Tech scores quick. They burned almost no clock out of the 2-minute warning. And so Pitt was allowed to get down the field, and they had 2 chances at answering. And so you're looking at, should we have slowed down? This is a conversation that's becoming more apparent with the Patriots-Buccaneers game, where they literally took a knee, essentially, and so they could run the clock out entirely and make sure the opposing team doesn't get a chance. It's something I do when I'm playing the video game, which, of course, matters a ton to
Kansas
this.
City did it to Indianapolis today as well.
Yes, they tried to, for the most part. They ran the ball. They didn't do the Drake May thing.
Yeah.
But they at least tried to burn the clock. Georgia Tech doesn't end up doing that, and so Pitt gets another chance. Now, thankfully, Pitt misses the 2 field goals, but you're not able to capitalize when Haynes King throws the pick 6.
Yeah, brutal.
I've never melted more. I'm a Georgia Tech guy. I very well could have went there. A lot of my groomsmen went to Georgia Tech, 4 of them to be exact, and so it hurts a lot because it's one of those. I hate that I did this, but when watching the game, at least at the start, before it went bad, I was thinking Georgia Tech could host a home playoff game, and I'm going to go to that game.
Yeah.
Because they're going to win this game. Duh. They'll go beat Georgia. They'll go win the ACC championship. They're in the top 8.
Okay.
I get to go watch Georgia Tech host a playoff game, host Ole Miss or something. Well, I don't think Ole Miss would drop that far, but I hate that I did that because maybe that was a jinx. I know
Sure.
Yep. It's
It's
your fault
something-
they lost.
State
It
fans,
wasn't-
I'm sure, have done
And
that.
you're calling it a look-ahead game, which is copium because you're guilty. That's what's happening here.
And I said the look ahead thing jokingly, of course, but it hurts so much to watch that because Pate has talked about with South Carolina, but I think it applies here again with Georgia Tech. When is Georgia Tech going to be in the spot ever again? 2 games away from the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably never. With James Franklin joining the ACC and Virginia Tech, I would hope. I don't know if you guys would hope, but I would hope Dabo Swinney returns to some form with Clemson. Jeff Brom stays with Louisville. Miami will
Yeah.
continue to have
Lenore
talented
Selly's
rosters.
Miami is going to cook.
Virginia Tech back on the rise.
Virginia Tech with James Franklin. Virginia is looking great with Tony Elliott, and I don't think he's going anywhere. Rhett Lashley very well could just stay at SMU. I think that's completely possible.
I think it's the most likely scenario.
When are you ever going to be one game at home against Pitt to go to the ACC championship game again? That's going to sting for a long time. Pun intended on that, of course.
Yeah.
It really hurts. I don't know how they feel because that campus is a bunch of nerds, straight up nerds, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they actually really care that much about how much impact that's going to have for the future, that they may think that they could be in the spot again.
Sure.
Because, again, their head coach might be gone in this cycle. Brent Key, Haynes King is not returning. I know they like their other quarterback, but he's no Haynes King. He's no baller like that, at least at this point.
Not a gamer.
It just you hurt so much.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like they've missed the opportunity of a lifetime. But for me personally, I put all the blame on ESPN for putting the thing that said Georgia Tech advances.
Yeah. Can't add that to the scoreboard.
And leaving that up the entire game. When they're
That is
down,
tough.
when they're up or down 28-0, it's still on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you just said Georgia Tech's a bunch of nerds. You also said 4 of your groomsmen went to Georgia Tech.
Yes.
Would you classify them as nerds, or are they like the exception to the rule?
They are an exception.
Okay.
100% an exception. They, in fact, 2 of them, 2 of the 4, are minorities there at Georgia Tech.
Gotcha.
They're white.
Yeah.
White is a minority at Georgia Tech, if you don't know. Literally. It is really low acceptance rates of whites.
Yeah.
That's not, I will go ahead and clarify, that is not me saying Georgia Tech is racist by any means, but they like to diversify
Sure.
a ton. So I think they are exceptions to the rule. I wouldn't say that they're nerds, but them 4 don't understand the world of college football, and so they are likewise with the nerds in that they won't understand the impact this is going to have.
Yeah.
That
They don't realize
are
what
not going to be.
They don't realize what a
again.
missed opportunity it
Yes,
was.
100%.
And
Makes
then
sense.
to flip it and talk about the team that won, Pitt hosts SMU for rivalry week. Not SMU, Miami. Apologies, I'm looking at the standings. They host Miami. You have to win that game to have a chance at the ACC championship. But right now, there's a 3-way tie for first place at 6-1. Virginia plays Virginia Tech. Pittsburgh plays Miami. SMU plays JP
At Cal,
at Cal. Yeah.
who just fired their head coach.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see if all 3 teams win. It goes to some sort of weird tiebreaker, I assume. I don't think any of these teams have head-to-head.
At this point, SMU and Virginia control their own destiny. Pittsburgh does not with
Yeah.
the ACC
Really?
tiebreaker. As far as I understand it right now.
Okay, so Pittsburgh needs one of those teams to lose.
But
to go.
there is a spot where you could have 6. McBride pointed out earlier.
Yes.
You could have 6 and 2 ACC teams, and then it gets really precarious, and it could come down to a computer metric between the teams, which I forgot what exactly it was, but it wasn't like strength of record or anything like that.
We should just go to points for, like in fantasy.
I mean, we almost had a coin flip last year for a championship game
That would
appearance.
fire.
Yeah.
It is crazy how the tiebreakers rule
Yep.
work. A point,
Sure.
points for or point differential would make so much sense, and because
That's
like
too simple. Come on.
it is too simple. It doesn't make college football doesn't make any sense. They don't. The
Yeah.
higher ups would never do that, but like the other football has that with goal differential, and it works. I think
It's
it
so
works.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Why
you've
can't
got
you have
those
that?
3 teams at 6-1. Then you've got Georgia Tech at 6-2, Miami and Duke. No, yes, you could have the 6-way tie. Miami and Duke are both 5-2.
that Andrew's talking about. That would be crazy, but it's a huge win for Pitt. Pat Narduzzi at least gets to like have some respite from his take about the Notre Dame game doesn't matter,
Yeah,
but like we're gonna go win the games that does matter.
he wasn't wrong. Like the Notre Dame game did not matter as far as the playoff goes.
I know. I do think it did because if they had beaten Notre Dame, they can beat Miami this weekend and potentially be an at-large.
Yeah,
It would be a long shot, but tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
the committee liked Pitt. I mean, Pitt
They
was
love Miami and they love Notre Dame. If they had beaten Notre Dame, who is at 9 at this point,
because you also
and
would knock
Miami
both of them out.
is
So
sitting there, you would knock both of those teams out of the race. They
Yeah.
would still need help, but they would potentially be able to get in the spot where I understand the ACC championship still matters, but they could get it to where they're like SMU last year, where they lose the ACC championship and they're still in.
yeah,
And so I think I completely disagree because it doesn't. It does matter.
Well,
so
also,
much.
I would argue, like, you're also just. We're getting sidetracked, but it also really pisses off your fans to say something like that because a lot of those schools live for
Yeah.
the chance to upset a top team. Like, if you're not one of the best teams, like, you're circling those types of games on your calendar to be like, I want to go make a moment that I'm going to remember and that we, as Pitt fans, are always going to remember.
You don't want to win when College game day is in town.
Yeah. But he at least wins the game that he believes matters more. So shout out to him for doing so. And now you got to go finish the job at Miami. But anything else before we move on?
Pitt will look great in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah.
Crazy. USC at Oregon.
Pitt versus Utah. That's my prediction right now.
Okay.
All right.
I'll be tuned in.
Is the Pop-Tart Bowl now like a New Year's Six bowl essentially? Because all the New Year's
It's the biggest bowl game that's not in the part of the playoff. I'd
Yeah.
argue.
That's kind of sad.
Well, I
How's
would
that
argue that's
sad?
great. You get to play in front of Pop-Tart mascots.
No, it.
Are you saying the Pop-Tart Bowl is not good for the sport?
I think the Pop-Tart
This
Bowl
guy's
is
not a fan
great
of
for
college
the sport.
football.
I
I think it's
love
great for the sport.
We established earlier today he's the biggest hater of the three.
This is true.
What?
Posting some Chris Parsons.
Oh yeah, the
Low light.
Chris Parson game
You
losing
know how many
overthrow.
likes that tweet had?
21, I don't know.
I looked at it 5 to 7 hours after he sent. It had 13 likes 5 to 7 hours after he sent the tweet.
That's
Wow.
funny.
So, yeah, that is straight up hatering. We're just taking a random burner with 13 likes. Not like it's Jeff Lebby's burner. A random burner. So, credit to Jeff Lebby's burner there. With
For not being a random burner.
13 likes and talking about Chris Parsons' overthrow and a 2-point conversion. Yeah, he drinks the haterade over there.
I agree.
I was just
He
I
doesn't
just thought it was
respect what
funny.
Chris Parsons did.
I just-
Why'd you send it?
Because it's a
He
former
thought it was
state guy
funny.
who lost the game. I thought it was funny.
He put them in that position.
He
though.
did. Then he missed the game-winning 2-point conversion.
But he's talking about someone missing that throw as funny. Like that wasn't a heartbreaker for our
It is
boy, Chris
100%
Parsons.
a heartbreaker.
I mean, I'm sure, I don't remember in the video, I'm sure he fell to his knees.
Were you heartbroken when Haynes King threw the pick six?
I was not watching at the time, but I was heartbroken at the end of the game when he throws the 4th down and it doesn't convert. And then he goes and sits on the bench and you can tell he's close to tears
Yeah.
and the coach is consoling him.
Exactly.
Same way I was heartbroken when Connor Wiegman lost yesterday.
Agreed.
They're all Aggies. They did no wrong.
Hater.
I do not. I do
argu-
not keep the same attachment to players when
Arguably,
they leave.
we did more wrong to them than they ever did to us by what we did to their development.
I was disappointed in Michael Van Buren's performance yesterday.
Yeah.
And he went to LSU.
Sure.
Left us for LSU.
If you have
Grass is not always greener.
If you have legitimate grievance with the player, then I'll allow you to hate and not be a hater. Like,
Yeah, Malik Heath.
sure.
Never won an Egg Bowl. Good for him, man. Good thing he transferred.
I did. Such an aside. But you know the celebration defensive players do where they like put their thumbs down?
I love that one so much.
So when we were playing South Carolina, they have a defensive lineman who transferred from A&M, Gabriel Brownlow Dindy. And at one point he does that, and all the Aggies were like, I can't believe that. Like, we gave him his chance, and, like, he's going to come and put the, thumbs down. Like, that's so disrespectful. And I was like, guys, it wasn't, like,
Yeah, it's
it
just a
wasn't a dig
common
at us. It's
celebration.
just a common celebration, I swear.
That's funny. USC Oregon.
Sure.
Bang.
The game of the day, in terms of ranked matchups, is where game day went. USC goes to Oregon, puts up a good fight, but unfortunately they just can't really slow down the Oregon rushing attack, which was phenomenal all day. And Oregon wins 42-27. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
I picked USC to win the game, so I apologize for being wrong. They made a very early statement. They win the toss, they take the ball, and they go score on the backs of their big-time receivers in Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah.
Drive right down the field. It is 7-0 immediately in Eugene, and it's potentially possible, and this is all happening as I am on one knee here in Starkville. That being said, this was a prototypical Lincoln Riley loss against a big team. The offense was ready, but the defense was not. Their defense, 15 missed tackles, the highest mark of the season, were on the field for 74 snaps, in large part not because the offense for USC was bad, but because they would give up 4 yards and then 5 yards and then a 3rd-and-1 conversion. That was the most they had this season in Big Ten play. The only other team to have more snaps against that USC defense was GATA, Georgia Southern. Put them in the playoff consideration. Oregon was 7 for 12 on 3rd down. They were unstoppable for the most part. They had led the country coming into the game in the Power 4, at least in yards per carry. They have 4.4 per rush, and they win the turnover battle 2-1. Offense was ready, defense was not. And it just feels like another prototypical USC loss where you're looking when you get into the second half and they have gone down and they scored to put it within 7 or to put it within 6. And then you just all right, defense get one stop, and then they just drove right back down the field, scored a touchdown.
And it's not even a thing, and you can correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's not like the defense wasn't ready for the game. The defensive unit on this team is not ready for the big time.
Sure.
This is a common theme with the USC defense. There's no, we'll get them next week. Like, the unit's ready. They still need more talent. They still have to up their physicality.
But that's
They gotta get
always
in the weight
been
room more.
Lincoln Riley coach
Correct.
defenses, though.
Which the
Absolutely.
gap is closing.
Yeah, they have gotten better.
It's gotten better. But they're not there yet. Still, I thought Dante Moore had a great game. I thought Kenyon Sadiq coming back was huge.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, the seam shot to Kenyon Sadiq on the touchdown where he splits the two defenders, throws a rope. I thought that was one of the best throws of the season.
Sure.
That's one that when he gets drafted, that'll get played in the B-roll that gets played because that was a phenomenal throw. Showcased what they can do through the air. But yeah, they just got what they wanted offensively. USC just couldn't hang.
I think you can argue USC is getting closer, but I only think you can argue that when they are playing teams that aren't playoff caliber. Like, I think they have gotten better defensively when they go out and play Nebraska, who, if I'm not mistaken, they held to 17 points.
Yeah.
They aren't there when they go and play in the playoff, like when they had to play Bama, when it was Bama OU in Miami and Tua tore them apart. And then in this one, when it's Oregon on the road in Oregon has 42 points. They score 6 touchdown drives. The defense gives up 179 yards on the ground and 257 through the air. They got whatever they wanted. They are improving, and I want to give them credit for that. But it's a missed opportunity, and the game completely flipped when Malik Benson takes the punt return for a touchdown. USC is then driving. They throw a pick.
Do we think knows who Malik Benson is now?
I'd hope so.
Yeah.
Cool. I just can't believe he's hating on a long neck dong boy like that. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah,
you got to respect my fantasy
second on the team
man.
in receiving yards with one less than 68, and then of course the punt return for a touchdown. After getting up 2 scores, USC never had a drive to go tie or take the lead for the rest of the game. That's after Oregon got up 2 scores. Again, on the defense, I don't think you can make the argument for this game because USC was hobbled. USC's without DeCorian Moore. They are without Evan Stewart.
Oregon's hobbled.
Oregon was hobbled. They were without DeCorian Moore. They were out with Evan Stewart. Kenyon Sadiq returning was a huge part to that. They lose Isaiah World, their left tackle in this game. They were hobbled, and it didn't matter. They were able to do what they want, and it speaks a large part in the culture that they have.
Yeah.
With the best teams, it's just almost always the case of, well, it doesn't matter who comes into the game. They're just going to continue to put up numbers like that.
Yeah.
Because that's who
they are.
You lost Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. It's over. No, you lost a Buckeye and a Buckeye, and now 2 more Buckeyes come in. And Julian Sand and Ohio State don't miss a beat, and the same thing happens here for Oregon and Dan Lanning's Ducks.
Yeah. I completely agree. And talking about the defense not being able to snap, I feel like the key moment of the game, I mean, the punt return was huge.
Yes.
But also when Maava throws his first interception, when they're down 7, and it's like, with the way the defense was playing, you couldn't afford that. You had to keep pace, and now because of the interception, they go and score, and suddenly you're down 2 scores, and you're not keeping pace anymore. You're having to play true catch-up.
Look, the pick hurts a ton. It was overthrown. It was in the triple coverage. I'm sure he would get flack for that and has gotten flack for that. But he had been making that throw, and he continued to make that kind of throw all day.
He had a good day. I'm not like trying to dog on him and be like, you lost your team the game, because he didn't.
And specifically, they were making a lot of work with 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
They were giving their receivers chances.
Which you have to.
And that was another one of them. So it's just one of those 50-50 balls that doesn't go your way because Maava overthrows it. And then on the other one, he's just beat by the DB on a 4th and 10. It's unbelievable coaching in that spot because on 4th and 10 they are running routes to get just to the sticks and then catch the ball. And so if you as a DB know where the sticks are, and as soon as you see where the sticks are, you're able to cut immediately onto the ball, and he ends up picking Maava.
Yeah.
One of the biggest keys I talked about coming into the game was 4th down, and I thought USC had a tremendous advantage there in this game. USC's just 2 for 4 on 4th down. They only attempted 2 4th downs before that final drive where they end up attempting 2, and Maava hits an incredible play to Jacoby Lane, who makes a big catch that extended the game. They weren't as aggressive as I thought they were going to be, but they weren't in a lot of favorable 4th down positions, and that's, again, a testament and a credit to that Oregon defense. They end up winning the turnover battle when USC's been better in the turnover battle all season, and you're never going to win a game when you rush for 52 yards and the opposing team runs for 180. You're never going to win a game when you lose a turnover battle to the other team. It's just another missed opportunity for USC. I don't think it's time to panic on Lincoln Riley and them. Give them one more season.
That's
I guess.
That's exactly
we're talking
where
about
I was
the
going to go
recruiting
with
class
this.
a ton, and I'll let you take over.
I had the recruiting class put up because in our season preview, I specifically remember the video title because I feel like I kind of cooked with it. It was, does Lincoln Riley use the season to buy himself time till reinforcements arrive? In 2026, so this upcoming class, they currently have, or they will have, the number 1 class in the country. They've got a 5-star, a bunch of 4 stars, and some 3 stars, and it's just a really good class coming in to USC. But is next year he has to what is next year the prove it year? Because he's kind of had some James Franklin and Eli Drinkowitz to his game, inability to win the big games. Is not able to make the playoffs with Caleb Williams. I think they go 11-3 that year. This year they lose a game to Illinois, they lose to Oregon, they lose to Notre Dame. So all 3 of their biggest games, their biggest opportunities to go get a win and really prove themselves as a top 15 team, they lose all 3 of those games. Last year I think they went 7-5 and maybe finished 7-6 with a bowl loss. So a down year last year.
It was all the 1-score losses.
Yeah. Potential some panic
leads.
button pressing this year. You're 8-2, or just were 8-2 with a chance to win this game.
You're one
game away
from the playoff. A chance to
compete for the Big Ten, a chance to compete for the playoff, and then you lose this game, just another loss. Is next year Like, did this loss for Lincoln Riley really make next year go 10-2 or better kind of year?
No, because of their schedule. They play next year at Indiana. They play at Penn State. They host Ohio State. They host Oregon. They host Washington. And they play Notre Dame. That's 6 of your 12 games are teams that are essentially Penn State we think is going to be better next year. We'd hope. I hope. But that's 5 games at least, or I should say 4 games for sure against pretty likely playoff teams this year in Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then Washington
Yeah.
and Penn State are not going to be pushovers next year. So, no. But I do think you have to win half of those games.
Sure.
I think you have to
So you
be
think
looking at 9-3 again. It depends on who starts at quarterback next year. Like, does Maeva leave for the draft, or is it Longstreet, their true freshman, the 5-star who came in? I don't think it'll matter because Lincoln Riley at quarterback play has never mattered.
Yeah.
He's worked with anybody. But I do think you're just going to have to be more competitive. Like the Ohio State game and the Oregon game at home, both those games, and even the Notre Dame one, are critical. I think you got to go 2-1 at home.
Yeah.
And then I think you got to win one of those games on the road at Indiana or at Penn State. I wouldn't argue that it is a make or break year just because of the schedule, and boosters, fans are going to look at that schedule and understand that. At the same time, though, it is what you signed up for joining the Big Ten, to have these more competitive games.
He'll still complain. He don't care about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's so hard having to travel to the East Coast and all that.
yeah,
It is.
It is crazy. That's
tried
where
to
most
tell
of
you.
the Big Ten teams are
Yeah.
is on,
And they will
is
have
on
to
the
go.
East Coast.
They're going to have to go to Wisconsin, to Rutgers, to Penn State, and to Indiana.
so some long trips.
4 long East road
So
trips.
worst case scenario is they go like 1-3 in those 4 tough games,
They could miss.
and then
a
they
bowl
end
game.
up dropping like a Wisconsin game or a Rutgers game because apparently
Or you
Lincoln
lose to
Riley,
Washington
Yeah, or I'm saying, and then you also drop a Washington or like
They
there's
could miss a bowl game.
yeah, like you end up going 5-7 or
Yeah.
6-6.
That being said,
Barring, go ahead.
they could be 9-3 and have a playoff resume and have an argument
Yeah.
like Texas might have this year.
Correct. And I will say, I don't know if they will be logical, but barring disaster, we're talking about this recruiting class they're bringing in, like, being reason to buy him more time and, like, oh, this could be the class that turns it around. Realistically, if you're really going to buy into that, you got to let them become at least sophomores before
Yeah,
you really
sure.
reap the benefits. If you're really going to, buy into that logic of, oh, we want to wait and see what happens with this class, firing them after they're freshmen doesn't really give them a fair shake of
Yeah.
being this class that turns it around. So, we'll see. Shall we get on to our last game?
They don't have to play Georgia Southern next year, so lucky there.
Yeah.
That's truly dodging a bullet.
I was just looking back at their 2022 class, 2023, number 9 in the country. Zachariah Branch, 5-star, transferred. Malachi Nelson, 5-star,
Yep.
Right.
transferred. Deuce Robinson, 5-star,
Florida State.
transferred to Florida State. Makai Lemon is still there, and I don't know about the rest of these guys.
Well, that's also part
Quentin Joyner, transferred.
Yep.
Yeah. They're having trouble keeping guys on board, but also you look at a lot of those top guys, it's all skill position guys.
Yeah.
And that is really nice, and you want elite skill position guys. But when you go play at Oregon, you're gonna have to win in the trenches, or at least be competitive in the trenches.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily there. Looking at the recruiting, so
Yep, and the top guys in this year's class, tight end, cornerback, so it's a little bit of help on defense, wide receiver, edge rusher, tackle, D-line, linebacker, running back.
That's improvement.
there's some juice there.
So,
Cool.
last game. Big game.
Speaking of the Sun Belt,
Yeah, the Fun Belt, man. Well, JMU, you can kind of half exhale because it was tight. You were actually losing in the second half, and you pull out the win. You win 24-20 at home against Washington State. But I say you can only half exhale because to really make a statement to the committee and try and get that group of 5 spot, you really needed to wow here. And unfortunately, though I do think this is a result that you should be proud of and should be celebrated, considering what Washington State has done to hang around other tough teams. A win is a win is a win. In the committee's eyes, I don't think this is going to do anything to help you improve your stock. It's a very even game. you look at the total yardage. Washington State 301 yards, JMU 319 yards. Penalties, 6 for Washington State for 45 yards, 5 for JMU for 54 yards. Turnovers, you both have 1. You both threw 1 interception. Washington State does have 34 minutes of possession to JMU's 25. But really an evenly matched game. It shows in the stats. It showed when you watched the game, and it shows in the final score. But y'all's thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it wasn't the style points we wanted from the
Yeah.
Dukes.
Sadly.
I doubt that they would make this kind of case, but your only hope is, do you put this result into looking a lot like the School of North and the Virginia result and say that they are comparable on a level, because that's 2 potential playoff teams, at least playoff favorites at this point. I think that's your only hope going forward. The only other hope is Navy, I think, has to win the American, and you hope that they had you over Navy, and your whatever was outside the 25 for their rankings.
Yeah.
I think those are the only 2 options left for JMU to make the playoff, which sucks. That being said, history was made on Saturday. It's the largest program to have ever played at James Madison, which being, Washington State essentially kind of a Power 5 school. JMU, of course, is very early, though, in their FBS days, so it's not like it's
But this is year 4.
year 4 or 5.
It's 2 with Kurt, and then this is year 2 without Kurt.
Yes. JMU offensively, not even totally, lightning in a bottle win for them. Pick 6, a 68-yard touchdown on a fake quarterback run, which was an incredible play, and a great ball from Alonzo Barnett. And then Wayne Knight on the 58-yard game winner. Other than that, they could not get anything going against this Washington State defense, who's been really good, top 30 in both categories all year, and they showed that again on Saturday. You got the expected offensive output from Wazoo, 170 through the air, 130 on the ground. For me, it was just the way that they shortened the game that was really impressive. By shorten the game, I mean they kept themselves on the field. It was a 35-minute time of possession. Or not 35 minutes, but it was 35 to 25 was the edge. Only 10-minute edge. But Wazoo attempted 18 third or fourth downs throughout the game. That is putting the defense in critical spots so many times throughout the game. And while your offense couldn't provide, it's what kept you in the game and what had you in control of the game. If you take away a pick 6, you win this game 20-17, and so maybe Wazoo has some stuff to look to going forward. They'll have to play their rematch against Oregon State next week, where they lost the first one earlier this year, the second game of the 2. But yeah, JMU didn't get what we wanted.
Yeah.
And our only hope, I think, for me right now is Navy has to win the American, and of course we still have to win the Fun Belt. Because I don't think you're going to get in over North Texas or Tulane.
No, because even talking about this result, and I know it's just one result. There's so many other things that go into it. North Texas killed this Washington State team, so that doesn't necessarily help your case at all.
Not at all.
It was the big plays though in this game, because even Washington State had the 44-yard touchdown pass. So it was just kind of great defense, and then offensive explosives sprinkled in.
I'm gonna be honest. Wait, hold up. Let me go to does Navy get in over?
I mean, there's a legit chance, because at this point, it's pretty clear
Because
to me.
then, sorry, I didn't. I
Go
just wanted to, Navy would then have a win over either Tulane or North Texas. I mean, that's a good win.
I understand that. For a lot of the past couple weeks, the AP poll has kind of mirrored a lot of what the cultural playoff has felt, and JMU is the highest of them in the AP poll, and it won't be with the CFP. But I would like to think that JMU was 2 spots behind Tulane, is sitting at 26. Navy is not even ranked in the AP poll. They're 27 technically in terms of votes this week, and so I'd hope that there was enough separation that even if Navy were to win their final game and then go and win the American over North Texas or Tulane, that it wouldn't be enough to get over JMU. But I don't think that's a terrible argument. I think that's still on the table as well.
Yeah.
That'd be fascinating to see, especially with the Army game being oh man, that's
It
so
holds
interesting.
no impact because we've already decided the playoff.
Yeah, that's so interesting
Navy
because
Navy could be in the playoff, get blown out by Army, and
Yeah.
still play in the playoff.
yeah, I don't yeah.
It was
I think if
it's something I touched on last year because we almost
We
had
talked about it
Navy and
last year, yeah.
Army in the American.
not on the show, imagine
on
we
the
had a
show.
show last year.
Do we think that it being a service academy and the style of football they play would hurt them? Like, do you think the committee would like?
I'd hope not.
Well, yeah, you hope not, obviously, but like being realistic here, do we think the committee would potentially be like, yeah, we're good. We actually, despite shunning JMU this whole time, JMU's now the ranked team.
It feels un-American. To do
Yeah.
that. And look, I think not that Georgia Tech runs the same style offense, but they give it to their quarterback is their
Yeah,
their
engine.
Blake
Sure.
Horvath of Navy is their engine. He leads the team in rushing. He leads the team through the air, of course. It's a different style of offense. I hope you wouldn't make that argument for television product. That being said, it would be very interesting if whoever the 5 team was, if it was just like if kind of bad matchup, Navy could give you some trouble.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the way that they play offense.
They would be playing the 5 seed.
I can tell you, not that the video
Like
game.
Navy versus Ole Miss or something.
That could be interesting. Could be if Navy shortens the game
Yeah.
a ton with their ability to run the football, and Ole Miss just has no stoppage of it because none of these teams have practiced against the option ever. We haven't seen the option in a really, really long time.
Sure.
At a prominent rate, and for the most part, the ones that were prominent, it was out of the shotgun where you're just reading an end.
Yeah.
And that has the only way the way you stop that is you bring a Sam or a Will over, and that's 2-on-2. Very different when you have to work up against the wishbone.
I will say that whenever we've seen the option offense go up against a P4 team like Notre Dame, Navy this year, Army last year, did not go well.
Not at all.
So
Georgia State gave Bama trouble that one year. Dropped like 30 something on them. Now
Yeah.
they lost because they gave up 50, but they moved the
that's
ball
a good
well.
argument right there.
They moved the ball well.
But yeah, a tough. I mean, I tuned into this game probably like half through the second quarter. I think maybe started the third quarter. It's like, this is just not what we need from JMU.
Not at all.
Because I don't think the argument of, well, this is what Washington State did to Ole Miss. You know, that's a playoff team. JMU's a playoff team. I think that you really need to blow Washington State out here.
Agreed.
Yes.
It is now just terrifyingly not in your hands.
It's beyond dire. The last thing I will say, shout out Joshua Whitehead for the Pat McAfee reference in the chat. But
Yes.
Jamie, can we schedule a little tougher? Like, we got to get a little more out of conference juice. Honestly, your best case is you need to figure out a way to get an American team on the schedule and go beat them for like future seasons down the line
For who?
for JMU.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
gotta it's pretty clear that the committee is not gonna respect the Sun Belt. And so you're probably gonna play a Power 5 team or Power 4 team, every season. But we may need a little more on the schedule non-conference wise than just that.
Yeah, because no offense to JMU, but like if you kind of expect you're going to lose that game, even if it's close, like they lost close
Yeah.
to Louisville, an 11-1 team who's 7-0 in the Sun, do they play 8-0 in the Sun Belt?
Mm-hmm.
That's just not going to an 11-1 team who's 8-0 in the Sun Belt's not going to cut it. So
Yeah.
I do agree that they need to. Who were their other out of conference games? Washington State
Louisville,
and Louisville.
Weber State.
That
An
was their
FCS
ACC
school.
The FCS school. Thank you.
Yeah,
Is Liberty
Liberty's
Liberty's a Conference USA.
Conference USA?
yeah, so
that
that's
was their
out as
other-
well. And it hurts Liberty ended up not being good.
Yeah,
That does hurt.
yeah.
But not like the committee's going to respect Conference USA either.
Big game next year. JMU at Virginia Tech.
That's cool.
Wow.
If
James Franklin.
Alonzo Barnett III returns and their head coach is able to return,
Yeah.
then that's a
Able
very...
to return?
If he doesn't go take another job, is
Okay.
what I'm saying, because he's a big name for a lot of
I mean,
places.
hopefully he's able to return. But, I mean, if he like gets caught betting or something like that, he
It's
may
also
not be able
possible.
to. So
True.
please don't do that, Bob Chesney. Shall we get to the buy or sells?
Let's do it.
Let's.
I literally only have the ones in the chat. But So we're only going to have a couple.
All right, we can make some up on the fly if we want to.
First one from our chatter, who I think is still in the chat. Good night, Joshua Whitehead. It
Thank
was
you,
good to
Whitehead.
see you this weekend.
Good night.
Buy or sell. Ohio State has taken it easy in every Big Ten game this year. By taking it easy, I guess I'm just going to describe it as like vanilla game plan, not really being hyper aggressive offensively, just not really like looking to blow teams out.
Not starting your 2 best wide receivers because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, they were probably did have legitimate injuries, but I imagine like they didn't leave last week's game, did they?
I think Jeremiah Smith, I don't know if he played down the stretch of last week's game.
He didn't.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
It was just, those injuries I didn't hear much about leading up to the game. I'll buy, even though I am not an Ohio State narrative pusher. I currently have Indiana ranked number 1. I do think there's a very real possibility that Ohio State has just been coasting since the Texas game. I mean, if they had a tough game on their schedule, they had to get a couple games they thought were going to be tough. We thought the Washington game might be tough. The Illinois game was a top 25 game. But I feel like both of those games, they kind of passed with flying colors without showing too much. And I'm not going to think that with all the talent they have, that they don't have ways to utilize them that we haven't seen yet. And so, I would make the argument that it's a little silly to not have those things practiced outside of practice, because then you try and utilize them in a real game and maybe it doesn't work. But I'll buy that they have been holding on to some stuff.
I'll also buy for a lot of what Sanders said. I think they're holding back a little bit, so we'll see if we're right, I guess. But they've been a little too quiet, I think, for that not to be the case.
I'm selling. I think it's diabolical unless y'all want to claim that they are saving stuff in the tank and that they could have beat Rutgers 91-3, or they could have beat UCLA by 75, or Purdue by 75, or Penn State by 75. I don't think they're not trying, because the way they're playing defensively, I think if anything they are saving plays for the Michigan game, which I fully expect.
They will not be taking it easy on Saturday.
And I will 100% expect them to try things they haven't tried this year. And unfortunately,
wait, you just said you think they have been saving plays for the Michigan.
Yeah, I think you're just interpreting it a little different. Like, just because they're saving stuff doesn't mean they're like going easy, which I think is fair. Going easy maybe isn't the best way to describe it.
And I don't think they're sitting. I think they're sitting Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate because
they're legitimately banged up.
Up. They want them healthy for the Michigan game. They need them for the Michigan game, and they know that, like I said earlier, they are losing 2 elite players, 2 first-round draft picks, but they're losing 2 Buckeyes, and they have 2 Buckeyes behind them. They have, Emeka Ibuka, who is under the elite receivers, and Marvin Harrison ahead of him. They have other guys as well, and I think they know that, given that their history, especially at receiver, for them too, with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. I think it's... If you want to make the argument that they could have beat all these teams by 75 had they tried their hardest, I'm all for it. Feel free to make that argument. I think the only thing that they're taking it easy on is they potentially saving plays for the Michigan game, which I fully expect, and I would predict they're going to try things they haven't tried this season, and for the Big Ten championship game and the playoff. That is the only argument I'll accept. I don't think they're not trying or taking it easy because they're dominating everybody that they play. The only one that hasn't looked dominant was the Purdue game, and that's only because the first quarter wasn't dominant.
Sure.
I think that I'm buying it because I think that they are able to dominate these teams without giving 100%, without showing 100% of their plays, their looks, and without keeping their foot on the gas and doing the stuff like a Georgia onside kick, that you kind of
Because they haven't had to.
That's my point. I think that they are just so much better than every team they've played, where they
Then-
haven't had to break out the stuff you do when you play teams on your level.
Then we're agreeing.
And yet they're not number one.
Nope, haven't.
They're-
They don't have a
they're-
good
they're-
resume. Is not as good as Indiana.
They're coasting. Okay. And yet
Indiana's
here we
also
are.
coasting.
So you would argue.
Did we
they-
watch the Indiana Penn State game?
Okay, other
They,
than
they
that,
really coasted
that's
through
because
their
Penn State's a
game-winning
good
drive.
team.
Yeah.
Penn State's a good team.
And,
Coasted against
and
Oregon.
yet that's a good win then for Ohio State.
Yeah, that's why
Okay.
Ohio State's too.
Next one. Buy or sell. There will be more misses than truly good candidates in this year's coaching pool. And I think I'll say like a miss would be
they're
they're
the head-
fired by
yeah.
year 4.
Yeah, exactly. That would be what I would say.
So
I introduced this one.
Yeah.
They
So I'll let you
aren't
take
with
it
the
off.
team after 3 years.
Yeah.
They are back into the coaching search which we've seen in years past. That is something that can happen and does happen for head coaches.
Sure.
And I think we might be in a spot where you maybe have 3 guys that are still with the team after 3 years.
Yeah.
Those being like a James Franklin or Lane Kiffin. But I wouldn't guarantee Elijah Drinkwitz is at Florida
after year 3
for half a decade.
Yeah, I will say, I like that we're making it year 3 because that's a pretty aggressive firing. As after year 3, like it's gone pretty poorly. Year 4 is like, that's I would argue probably most cycles after year 4, half the candidates have already moved on. And I will say, for this to be case, it's not just moved on, but obviously like you have to have been fired, not just like, oh, I'm no longer the coach because I took the job at Missouri and then the Bama job opened up and now I'm the head coach at Bama.
And I also think a part of that, my buy or sell that I've introduced here is, or they are still there, but they aren't any better than they were prior.
Okay, sure.
Nothing has changed at LSU with Elijah Drinkwitz
The goal of them,
than with Brian Kelly.
the goal that was set when they were hired has not been reached, and therefore it's a miss.
Agreed.
Because if everyone was fired, then clearly it didn't go to plan.
So
I'm gonna buy.
run through. Sorry, I was trying to update the spreadsheet. Run through the 10-second caveats. What was
Basically, they either are not coaching at the school
in 4 years
after 3 years.
After 3.
Yeah, so going into year 4, or they are still coaching, but there's been they've done nothing
It's kinda
more
like a
than the
Billy
person that
Napier,
got fired
like-
before them.
Like a Billy Napier.
I think the
where
best
it's like-
one would be like Kenny Dillingham goes to LSU
They
and
haven't made the playoffs
he
after 3
hasn't
years.
made the playoff like Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or correct. Now a different one is like, so I guess Missouri, say Drinkwitz leaves to another job and someone comes in and does the same job as Drinkwitz. I guess that's not a failure because they didn't fire Drinkwitz. If that makes sense.
I think it's for the people that have been fired.
Correct.
Like
Penn
this-
State doesn't go win a big game.
John Summerall goes to Auburn and he gets to 7 wins instead of 6.
Well, that may be a success.
For Auburn, I'd call that a success.
No, they would not take
I don't
that.
think it would go as bad as Sam Pittman did with Arkansas. I think I'm buying. I think more than half of these coaches will be that. I don't like the fact that Eli Drinkwitz is that high on people's coaching boards. I don't understand. You very well could see the same things with James Franklin as you saw at Penn State.
Yeah.
And nothing will change. The expectations will immediately be there for Virginia Tech. For Florida, if they end up with option B. For Auburn and for Arkansas, I feel the same way. I really think it's because the other candidates are like Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. Does he do anything different at the new school that he did at Vanderbilt? I don't know. I can't argue that. Brent Key with Georgia Tech, I don't know if I can argue that it would go any differently at Missouri than it would at Georgia Tech.
What I'll say, and I'm also going to buy that there will be more misses than truly good candidates. And I think a big factor for me is that because this coaching carousel is so loaded with big jobs, LSU, Florida, Penn State, I think that it also means that there's a good chance that the standards are higher at those schools. And so failure is easier to reach. than a coaching carousel where it's a bunch of mid-tier. Like when the Mississippi State job was open, I'm not trying to dog our school. I love Mississippi State, but 7 wins,
You're a hater,
8
though.
wins,
yeah, it's been established.
absolutely. 8 wins is huge. We love it. We would love 8 wins.
Yeah.
Would we?
Yes, we would, JP.
At this point,
We would.
with
But
the fan
would
base.
we?
And so I think that the standards are higher in such a big cycle, which makes it easier for coaches to be failures.
I agree the standards are higher. I also just think that this is the reality in most coaching cycles, that there's more misses than hits. And then factoring in the fact that there's a lot of high-profile jobs and the candidate pool just really doesn't feel great. There's so many unknowns, and then the proven commodities aren't, besides Lane Kiffin, really aren't that great. I honestly, if I was Florida, I'd rather take a swing on a group of 5 than go get Drinkwitz.
Agreed.
But I don't think they'll do that
So you're
soon. They
buying?
just came off a group of 5 guy that did not go that well, and so
And Andrew makes a great
optics
point
cycles in.
the chat saying that it was some of these group of 5 guys like Golish, like Chesney, like Morris. They could make the step up, but it's too big of a step up and it's too fast of a step up, and it just falls beneath them, and they're forced to go back down to those ranks.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past.
Correct.
With coaches before that have risen highly from group of 5 and got in. Some have succeeded.
Yeah, I mean,
Kurt Cignetti is a perfect example of it. But it's not guaranteed. It's also kind of a shot in the dark as well.
I'd be interested to know, and there's just no, I mean, I guess you could pull this off the top of your head. Maybe I'm missing an obvious candidate. But, like, the last SEC coach that's been hired from the group of 5 that's really, like, knocked it out of the park, had great success. Like a Kurt Cignetti has at Indiana. It doesn't even have to be quite that high of a scale of a win. Because, like, I'm thinking Billy Napier, that didn't work out.
Freeze didn't work out. He came from Florida Atlantic.
Liberty.
Liberty.
Thank you.
Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin
Lane
came
Kiffin's
from
the thing.
FAU,
Yeah,
but
he had previous.
He was the coach at
yeah,
USC.
so that doesn't count. He's not
Tennessee, so
a first time is what it would have to be, like a first time Power 4 coach
Well, then
coming
Hugh
into
Freeze
the SEC.
also wouldn't have
Correct.
applied.
There's just probably really not that many
Yeah.
scenarios.
Where did Clark Lee come from?
Because
Drinkwitz, yeah, because he came from App State, and I would say he's had enough success there to, like, he's established himself as someone that can coach at the Power 4 level.
he was at. He had never been a head coach. He was an assistant.
Defensive coordinator at Notre Dame.
DC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Did Drinkwitz came from App State? Did he beat you? No. He's been in Missouri longer than that, right?
Yeah, I don't think he beat us.
I would agree. Yes.
Heupel as well.
He's
Good
been
call,
there
Andrew.
since COVID.
Shout out Andrew having her back in the chat with that one.
Yeah, really clutching up.
All right, next one.
Has Heupel succeeded though?
All right, JB.
He's
Ten-
established.
Tennessee fans
he's
would agree.
established him. He's not in over his head at the SEC level.
Fair.
Buy or sell. There will be no change in the teams that were in last week's college football playoff bracket in the final college football playoff bracket. This is yours as well, JP. So I'll let you talk through the caveat that
Yeah,
exists.
there's
Wait,
only-
Can you read it out again so I can type it in?
Yes. Buy or sell. There will be no change in the teams that were in last week's college football playoff bracket in the final college football playoff bracket.
Yeah, and there's only one caveat to it, that Miami was the ACC champ last week just because they were the highest ranked ACC champ. I would say that it would be Virginia, who was tied with Georgia Tech in terms of odds, or not in terms of odds, in terms of the standings to make the ACC championship last week. So you could say it was them instead of Georgia Tech. And so the teams, that were in last week's ballot or last week's bracket stay the same, and that would be Ohio State, not in the same order. Things can change there, and more than likely will. But Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Georgia, Texas Tech, Old Piss, Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Bama. There's your cutoff for top 10 and at-large spots. And then the ACC champ, Virginia, and Tulane wins the American. No changes with those teams whatsoever, meaning BYU doesn't sneak in, Utah doesn't get in, Miami doesn't get in, Vanderbilt doesn't get in, Michigan doesn't beat Ohio State and get in, SMU doesn't win the ACC, Pitt doesn't win it, North Texas doesn't win the American, or JMU doesn't end up reaching as well, that those teams stay the same, is the buy or sell here. It would be favored to sell, of course, because you have a pretty big parlay towards things that would have to happen, but you're welcome to buy that parlay and buy that stock.
Well, I already know you're selling, JP,
Yes,
because you've got BYU winning the Big 12,
correct.
so they would have to be in.
I'm buying.
You're going to buy?
I'm buying because when I look at the tail end, I don't see Notre Dame losing to Stanford,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't play another game.
Yep,
Not
they'd be
that,
in.
yeah, not that conference championship. We don't even know how much that matters. Bama, I personally don't think Bama's gonna win. Sorry, I think Bama's gonna win.
Oh, okay.
Right, that makes
In
more
Jordan
sense.
Hare, I apologize. And then at that point, even if they make the SEC championship, I don't think it matters if they win or lose. I think they're gonna let Bama stay in. Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's gonna beat LSU. You don't have to play another game. You're in. Oregon plays Washington. I think they beat Washington, and then you're done. And at that point, you're looking at teams that probably could stomach another loss.
Yeah.
Like they lose the final week of the season. They're probably still in at that point. And so I'm not really too worried about it. And then talking about the ACC championship, I'm just going to back my boys Virginia to get the job done.
Yeah.
And so then they don't change either. And so I'm going to buy.
Yeah, it's not like it's a parlay of picking underdogs. It's a parlay of picking favorites.